Appreciate that so much. So the foundation got together this year, and with the help of Union Bank, which underwrote a reception for our volunteers, we were able to honor over 100 volunteers this year over at Rockwell's last week. Now, maybe one of the reasons Doug's not here tonight is he received this special honor. The foundation made the decision that from now on out, we should really recognize those volunteers. And so, excuse me a minute, we have a Volunteer of the Year award. And we presented this to Doug at the reception. And I wanted to show this all to you tonight. We'll be here in the City Hall. And year after year, we'll be able to honor those people. It says, honorees selected for this award have voluntarily extended a helping hand to make a positive difference in the lives of those who live, work, learn, and play in Villa Park. And it was presented to Doug in honor of his extraordinary community service. And all of you in town have an opportunity to have your name for 2013. So I'm hoping that you will lend the foundation a hand this next year as we present events to the city. We've got some fun things coming up. And more than that, we're going to be needing some extra hands as we put our hand in your pocket for membership money. Now, Doug is good at that. Rich is even better. But I'm telling you that the memberships make the difference and the sponsorships make the difference. So if you'll go onto our website, you'll see who were those donors from last year. Please tell them thanks, and please add your name to that list for 2013. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Jill. We sure appreciate that event, Jill, you hosted over there, the first annual recognizing of the volunteers at the City of Villa Park. One of the reasons I really love Villa Park is volunteerism, and I've always said Villa Park starts with a V, capital V, and it's volunteerism. And I'm so proud of our city because we have a lot of volunteers. So thank you, Jill. Okay, next we have a presentation or an update from the Friends of the Villa Park Library. Do we have anyone present to speak about that? Doesn't look like it. We will move on, and maybe they'll come shortly. Let's see. How about Orange County Fire Authority? So Battalion Chief have an update for us.
Honorable Mayor and Councilor, Chief Begnell, I'm the duty chief today. Not a whole lot. It's been relatively quiet except for that little thing that happened the other morning just to the south of us.
Oh, just that?
That little thing, yeah. I was on 4 of those, by the way. So, just a few changes at the OCFA. We have a new deputy chief who was our former operations chief. Craig Kanishida was promoted or will be taking the new position. New ops chief, the former fire chief in the Santa Ana will be now our new ops chief. We've appointed 3 new division chiefs and about 5 new battalion chiefs, so you may see some unfamiliar faces here at the podium. So most of us old guys are moving on, and it's time for those younger guys to step it up. So other than that, business as usual.
Great. Thank you, Chief. It is looking awful different down there, that's for sure. I agree.
Less gray.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Okay, finally, do we have an update, Lieutenant Gunzel, for our city? Thank you.
All right. Reporting for the month of January. Part 1 crimes as compared to January of 2012, they had 10 last year. This January we have 7. Of the 7, 3 of them include vandalisms. 1 was eggs thrown at a car in a driveway. 1 was a window that was broken on a vehicle, and the other one, the car was dented in the parking lot of the high school. So, not to downplay those crimes, but as far as Part 1 crimes go, that's not bad. I want to report on they just came up with our traffic division with the year-end total traffic statistics for all the cities. And did year comparisons. In 2011, the city of Villa Park had a total of 8 traffic collisions 1 injury, 7 non-injury for 2011. 2012, we have 0 traffic collisions, injury or non-injury. Pretty happy about those numbers. We're the only city that is reported in sheriff's jurisdiction with 0 numbers. So all the other cities have multiple. So I think I think a lot of it has to do with the traffic enforcement and things that our guys are doing. But glad to hear 0. Hopefully that's our number next month too. As you all know, that they had the disaster preparedness, and one of our reserve deputies did a presentation and forwarded, along with Ryan, the things from me. And I thought it was interesting. He had the disaster supplies calendar they sent to Ryan that things to stock up on during disasters. So I made a copy of one of these for me. But if you folks would like, I would make sure I can get it to Ryan to give to you guys. I thought that was something very, very good that he provided at that training. Other than that, as the chief talked about, the thing the shooting that happened that started in Ladera and ended right here at the intersection. Luckily, Jared and I talked. It was on the right side of the intersection for stat-wise, but so I didn't end up being out here all day. But any questions from me? Otherwise, we are pretty.
Any questions
pretty
for
good
Lieutenant Gunzel? Deb?
Yes, couple. First of all, any update on whether or not our SRO has been able to secure keys for the schools within our borders?
There's been phone calls made, but so far there is. My administrative sergeant has a call to Mike over at Orange Unified.
Yes.
He wasn't in today, so I wasn't able to follow up on it before today's meeting. So I think there's discussion. He asked me last week what that was about, because on Thursday he got the phone call and had a "while you're out" message. While he was at the office, he called, and I said it's going to have to do with the keys for the SRO. So I think there's some progress being made. Still doesn't have keys in hand. So.
I know a lot of people are working on it to try to make that happen. Okay, very good. I have another issue I'd like to bring up. On Friday, about 4:30 in the afternoon, as I happen to be leaving my area of the city, there was a homeless woman with several shopping carts right at the corner of Center and Villa Park Road, and I notified our city manager, and he said he would call the sheriff. And then at about 11:30 that night, I received an email from a resident who was feeling both compassion and fear, because that individual was still there on the Villa Park Road, and she called the sheriff as well, not knowing quite what to do about it. And she was told that there was nothing that could be done. So I was wondering if you could help me understand what is the proper procedure, what is the protocol, what is the sheriff to do, what are we supposed to do as residents when we see that kind of situation in our city? Right.
And Jared was concerned about that, and he forwarded me the email saying, hey, with the same question. The email wasn't completely accurate, and there's nothing they can do. Deputies have dealt with that homeless person numerous times. In fact, I talked to one of the unincorporated deputies today who was out with the Villa Park deputy talking to her. They offered her numbers for homeless programs and things like that. Now, with homeless, we don't want to treat that as a criminal nature. There are ordinances in the county that deal with illegal camping. That's on the fringe of what's going on here. My preference is not to cite someone into a criminal court because they're homeless, because that's not how you deal with it. For the deputy to say that there's nothing we could do isn't completely accurate. There's nothing criminal we can do. Villa Park doesn't have an ordinance, nor does the county on specific to that. I did some follow-up work on it. I looked at the logs, and I saw that there were several contacts ranging from 2 shopping carts to 4 shopping carts to whatever. And deputies have made several contacts with her. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put out a briefing on it from my guys based on my research into this thing. Now, just understand that deputies and law enforcement in general deal with crime better than anything. This isn't something that's a criminal nature. If a person has mental health issues, that's not a criminal nature. So it's almost something that they're not comfortable dealing with. They'll show up to a homicide or a stabbing or anything, a rape, and be able to know exactly what to do. With homeless or mental health issues, it's not so easy. What I would prefer them to do, and what I'm going to direct all deputies, city and otherwise, to do is use the resources the county has. And what I did, I started with Orange County Mental Health Institute, or Mental Health Program. I was probably on the phone for about 40 minutes today between the HCA mental health. They referred me to what's called the innovation program. They said the armory services are during the winter months. So right now they're in, and I wasn't aware of this, you check in, you get in line at 5:45 in the evening, they feed you dinner, you get a place to sleep, and at 6:30, time to go, 6:30 in the morning. So, but they are open until April, end of April is where they're scheduled. Well, that's not a county entity, but that's run by Mercy House. There's one in Santa Ana and one in Fullerton. You know, we're kind of in the middle here because the one in Santa Ana is down off of Warner. So then I started asking questions about whether this person can be 5150'd.
Help me with that. What's that?
That's what I was about to go. For these Welfare and Institution Codes 5150 allows law enforcement to take someone for a 72-hour evaluation. It's not something, we do them often, but they're very strict criteria because we're taking someone's liberties away for 72 hours without a criminal arrest. So it is very important to follow very strict criteria. One that we use most often is a danger to oneself or others. So if someone says they want to commit suicide, they're a danger to themselves, we take them 5150. We can take them to any emergency room in a hospital. We prefer to use the county ETS down in Santa Ana. You book them in, basically you do all your paperwork, and they take control of them, and they see mental health professionals and get them on medicine, things they need. That's generally the way it happens. There's also part of the code that says if they're basically unable to care for themselves. It's arguable whether someone living in the bushes with shopping carts are unable to care for themselves. That's one of those things that's hard to, you have to really be able to articulate how this person is not going to survive. So that can be done, but it's not the preferred choice. So, but I started down that road with the county official because they are county mental health. I asked the CAT team, that's the crisis assessment team, if we take someone for a 5150 hold, we can call them and they come and do the assessment. Anyway, long story short, the person from the CAT team, they don't do that unless we call and say this person's a 5150 or possibility. They come and do assessment. They won't go and talk to homeless unless we refer them. But she referred me to an outreach program called Outreach and Engagement Program. Give me a number. She actually made contact with, very helpful, she actually made contact with these people. They're going to come out, she guaranteed this week, she says, so today's Tuesday, Wednesday or Thursday, they're going to come out and look at the intersection that you referred, and they're going to look for this woman. And the only thing they can do is offer her services, offer her a shelter, offer her coupons for meals and things like that. You can't make someone do that. So with all that being said, it is a tricky situation. It's not a criminal nature, but understand when assistance calls and they want my deputies to respond, I want them to handle the situation. If we need to take the person 5150, then that's what we do. But it doesn't solve the problem. So, and she has to have mental health issues in order for me to do that legally. So. It's kind of a long answer to it.
It's a good answer. I actually appreciate very much that you were proactive and dug into it. Obviously, it's very concerning to us. We don't want that to be a normal occurrence in the city of Villa Park, and the residents need to know that when they call the sheriff that they're well armed with what they should be doing. And when I say armed, I'm talking about resources that are available to them.
Well, and your response to her was very similar to my response. Unless I know there's a problem, I don't know to deal with it. So that was something that I looked into, started looking at the logs, and knew that deputies did, make contact with her and offer her things. But it should have been handled better. Law enforcement in general, I don't think handles, mental health issues as well as they could. So. But that's something I'm gonna put a briefing on them out and make sure that we offer those phone numbers, because I'm looking in books I have in my office, deputies in the street, and I said I'm on 40 minutes on the phone and on the internet. Deputies don't have that resource out there as available as I do. So I'm gonna make sure that they have the numbers and things to call people and try and get. It's not immediate. They're not sending someone right now, but they said this week they're gonna have someone out. So hopefully she's in the area that the email described. And
thank you. I'm sorry that I have one more issue. It just happens to be that kind of month. About 3 weeks ago, I noticed in the little scan that the city of Orange, the police department there, had issued a warning to residents about door knock or solicitor burglars, that they were having a rash of those. They said they've had increased reports of burglars posing as solicitors or service technicians and then knocking on the door to see if anyone is home. And when no one answers, the thief looks for the back door or window to break in, and then, of course, they give a number for residents to call. That sparked my reminder. You know, we in the city of Villa Park, I guess it's been about, 3-4 years now, passed a do not solicit ordinance. And I wondered if we've had issues like that in the city. We have a report on it later on. I wanted to kind of talk about that because it's a law enforcement issue. It's also an administrative issue. Have we had issues in our city?
I know that Deputy Castro cited someone probably in the last 2 weeks for soliciting. And from reading the ordinance, that they have to have a permit from the city.
Yes.
Without that, it's a Muni Code citation. So I know that is going on. Again, people have to call and say, and the deputies will respond. And after certain hours, they're not within the hours that or outside the hours that they're allowed to, and following the rules. So, yes, I mean, whether we have a problem or not, I know deputies are enforcing it. If residents are calling and just reading through the logs, like I said, I know Deputy Castro cited someone for it. So,
thank you very
need
much.
phone calls and
Thank
we'll
you.
take care of it.
I really wish this update was closer to the front of the meeting, so it kind of coincided with the report from Lieutenant Gunzel, because I don't think a lot of people know about it, that we have this ordinance. When we first started, I think last year we had about 25% of the residents had do not solicit. They were part of the do not solicit list, and now we're at like 35% of the residences. It's a really great ordinance because we had a similar situation down on one of the streets where some wife was home alone. It seemed like a solicitor knocking on the door, but it wasn't a solicitor. When she didn't answer because she didn't feel like talking to a solicitor, he went around to the back. And that's what actually sparked this entire ordinance. And people have to get a permit in order to go door to door in the city. And when they pull that permit, they also are given a list of those residences that do not wish to have solicitors bothering them. And so if someone is at your door and you're on that do not solicitors list, you know one of two things. They're not really a solicitor, or they're not properly permitted to be going door to door. And they should probably call the sheriff, not just ignore it, because if they're a thief, they're going to try to break in. But it is so easy, Jared, for people to sign up to be on that list. How do they do it?
We have a mechanism to sign up via the city's website. Right there on the front main page, villapark.org. Simply enter your address, and it's forwarded over to, I believe, Bethany, and then she'll add your name to the list. You can call us, send me an email, send any one of the staff members an email. We'll add your name. As Councilwoman Pauly mentioned, we have about 600 plus 642 homes on the list right now, and currently we have 19 active solicitors. It's nowhere near the amount of solicitors that we would like permitted, but unfortunately it's just difficult to do. A lot of the companies hire these outside vendors, drop them off on the street corner, and then they go litter the city.
They don't concern me nearly as much as the ones who are posing as solicitors and are actually, casing our neighborhood. And that's when it's important to let the sheriff know. If you're on the do not solicit registry and somebody's knocking on your front door, just call them. And if worst case scenario, they're somebody that we need to be pulling in. Best case scenario, they come down and they get properly permitted, and it was a positive experience for everyone. But thank you very much. I normally don't ask very many questions, but this just was one of those kind of months.
Well, funny you mentioned the solicitor. Today, we, just as a side note, two of my sergeants had lunch with one of our sheriff's employees who doesn't work for me, but someone that we've known for years, lives in Placentia, and yesterday she had someone knock on her door. She's off on Monday. She didn't answer the door because she didn't want a solicitation. The person went around her back and tried her screen door, and she hid in the house. And I said, you didn't dial 911? And she didn't. So she got chastised by the
Yeah.
But yeah, it is not, it's not specific to Villa Park. That's county.
No, it's not. But, as we're seeing, the economy in a kind of a difficult situation, we're seeing more and more of this. I just would encourage all the residents, if you're not on that do not solicit registry, get on it. If there's a solicitor at your door and you're on it, don't ignore them. I yell through the door. I yell, I'm calling the police. And then I do. Just, keep yourself safe. Thank you, Lieutenant Gunsman. Thank you for that great report.
One more second, Lieutenant Gunzel. We have a pretty big agenda tonight. I would propose that we move up item 19 to right now.
Well, I think we
kind of just almost
we
did.
did. We did
You
kind
know,
of cover it.
kinda.
So I think that it is covered. As far as I'm concerned, it's covered.
Okay.
Well,
Does any council members have comments on the do not solicit list?
No.
Okay. Does anyone in the public like to come up and speak about that? I think it was covered pretty well. It is important. There's no doubt about it. I'm on it. And it's a big issue these days as the economy is
Absolutely
not doing so hot. So I guess we just wiped out item 19. Jared, I guess we need a roll call vote then?
Just a voice vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
We're in favor of discussing it. We just did. Great. Excellent. All right, 19 is wiped out. Thank you very much.
Lastly, I said
Yes.
last meeting I was going to introduce our newest deputy of the city. His daughter had adenoid surgery today, so he's on the calendar for next time. So I said I'm not going to make him drive down when he's taking care of his daughter.
Yeah.
So he's on March's calendar, and a lot of people have already met him, but I'll introduce him next month.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Gunzel. Yes, two quick little items, just on the homeless item, real quick. Recently, I went to a meeting and learned that the County of Orange, the County of Orange, spends $75 million a year on homeless situation. It's a lot of money, big problem. The Orange County Board of Supervisors is trying to buy a 29,000 square foot building in the city of Fullerton right now to help address this particular issue. So it is a big issue. I can appreciate what Lieutenant Gunzel said. The homeless person is not a crook. They're not a burglar. They got issues. It's sad. So we're lucky in Villa Park. We don't see much of that. I know in Orange you see a lot more, that's for sure. But just wanted to quickly report on that. And lastly, Councilwoman Pauly, I just wanted to mention, I did meet with Mike Christensen
Yes.
at OUSD.
Yes.
And I also had another meeting with Tim Surridge,
Yes.
their board president.
Yes.
And I did bring up the key issue as well to both of
Yes.
them. They indicate they have no issue with it. They just want a process or a way to do it. They've never done it that way before. They've never done it before.
Right.
So anyways, they're working on it. They don't have an issue with it. So that's just a quick update.
Very good. Well, because in OUSD, the only schools that actually have an SRO assigned to them are those within our borders because
understand.
we choose to pay for it.
No, we want them to have it. There's no doubt about it.
So it is new. Yes, you're
Yes. Okay, great.
Good.
All right. We are now ready to move for oral communications. These are for matters that are not otherwise appearing on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the City Council. If you wish to address the City Council, please step to the podium, state your name and address. Oral communications will be limited to 3 minutes for individual speakers. Do we have any speakers this evening? Wow. I like it. Big, long agenda and no speakers tonight. Yay. All right. Very good. Okay. Moving right along, we're ready for our first public hearing. The first hearing tonight is to consider conditional use permits at 9331 Loma Street. Jared, do you have a report, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we'll actually ask Jennifer about this report.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm going to ask Tyler Valentine, a member of our planning staff, to provide the report for you this evening.
Excellent.
Pass it on.
All right, Tyler.
All right.
It's his maiden voyage, right?
Be nice.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Tonight's first agenda item is Conditional Use Permit 0733 and 0734. The applicants, Mr. Jon and Antoinette Newton, are proposing to remodel their two-story home at 9331 Loma Street, located in the E4 Small Estate Zone. As you can see on the slide, the home is just south of Valley Drive on the west side of Loma Street. The lot is about 25,752 square feet. The existing two-story home is 3,262 square feet with a 612 square foot two-car garage and a building height of 28 feet. The applicant is proposing to increase the size of the home by 2,086 square feet. The home will remain 2 stories and will have a final square footage of 5,086. The building height will be 28 feet, requiring a conditional use permit for exceeding the minimum height of 25 feet. Along with exceeding the height requirement, the applicant is proposing to increase the size of the garage. They plan to add on 780 square feet, able to accommodate 6 vehicles. The code does require a conditional use permit for garages exceeding 3 spaces. Other than these 2 requests, the applicant is in compliance with all the requirements for development in the E4 zone, including setbacks, lot coverage, and floor area ratio. One thing we had to add on was in the conditions for building, our engineering department, I put it on in front of each of you. I believe it's condition number 6 under the building conditions. We just had an update for you guys for that. And after reviewing the proposal, the staff's research has found many homes within the city that exceed the minimum building height, and the applicant has plans to design the home to be aesthetically pleasing and complementary to the surrounding homes. There are many homes also within the city with garages exceeding 3 spaces, and the applicant has plans to design the garage in a way that complements the home and the surrounding neighborhood. Staff supports and recommends approval of conditional use permit number 0733 and 0734. If you have any questions, feel free.
Great, thank you, Tyler. You're welcome. Council members, any questions of staff on this?
I have a question regarding the permit. In our agenda book, we have an application for permit number 733, and the fees were paid on that. And this is going to correlate to another issue that we have on the agenda. But there are 2 permits. So do you charge for both permits? 733 and 734.
We do not currently charge our applicants by permit itself. The requests are lumped together, so the idea is that it doesn't take staff double the work to write a report for 2 requests. If they are processing a conditional use permit and a variance, then we charge for each of those application requests.
Okay. Because by our permit fees, when I went and I pulled it, it said per permit $600. So in this particular case, we would not have charged 12.
Right. Although there are some guidelines also that show that we tell the applicants that we don't charge permits, so we need to clean up that language so that we're consistent.
I'm not picking on this particular homeowner, it's just it
No.
correlates to another agenda item, so it's a good example for us here.
Yes, and it is part of the overall code cleanup that we want to make sure when we're bringing forward to the council that our codes are consistent from our finance to our guidelines to what's on the website to what's in our city ordinance as well. So that will be coming to you very soon.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions of staff? Okay.
Unless, go ahead.
I'm just going to ask no opposition, I assume. No opposition.
He wants
I
to-
can rephrase that.
I could sign it for you,
Yeah,
but
there you
no.
go.
We have not received any calls or letters at this time from any surrounding neighbors, and I believe the applicant has talked to several of their neighbors and has received support.
The only other comment I have, and I'll make it just because it's in both this and the next application, the square footage and the acreage appears to be kind of bizarre. It refers to 25,752 square feet, and it refers to 1.69 acres. And then the next one, it refers to 36,000 square feet and 1.2 acres. So I just thought I'd make you aware of it.
Thank you very much, and we'll make sure that is an editorial change we should have made ahead of time. So thank you for catching that.
Great. Councilwoman Pauly?
Yes, I know that you sent out notices to those in the 300-foot area, correct, within that.
Yes.
But what I noticed when I drove by, there was no posting of public hearing notices at the property. It's something that we used to do. Are we not doing that anymore? And if not, why?
Again, that's just a matter of consistency. I likely just forgot to photocopy them and give them to Mike to post. Typically, when we mail the notices, it just depends who does it. It could be myself, Bethany, Tyler, Michelle, Ryan. We'll photocopy them, leave one in Mike's box, and he'll post it. So we likely forgot that one this go around.
Okay.
However, and Todd could jump in if I'm speaking out of school, that is an extra notification. It's not, we didn't miss a requirement, so we did provide the proper notification to the residents. It's also posted here at City Hall, so we've met the legal obligation. So although it may not have been posted out on the site, we're still legally covered, as far as I can tell, unless Todd says otherwise.
Yes.
Love it.
How much do we pay you for that? All right. Okay. But we do intend to continue doing, I know it was a short week and it started off a little bit crazy when you were preparing for the council meeting, so,
The legal notices have to be mailed out 10 days in advance of the meeting.
okay,
So it would have been Friday, 15th or 16th.
okay. But you do intend to continue doing that. Very good. And my second question is, do we require as a condition that contractors hired by that property owner that's getting a CUP or anything, that they are properly licensed, the contractor, whomever they hire, are properly licensed by the city via us issuing them a business license? Do we require that? Is it in the conditions, or is it just something that we do whenever we issue a permit?
It's something that we do as part of our building issuance process. So, yeah, we don't put it in the conditions of approval because we already have that as part of our everyday occurrence.
Very good. I've never seen your everyday occurrence. I just see this, so I wondered. But that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions of council? Seeing none, is there anyone here in the audience that would like to speak on this matter? Seeing none, is there any final discussion items, council, or are we ready for the vote? Looks like we're ready for the vote. Do I have a motion? I'll make it. Oh, Rick beat me to it. Rick, okay. I made the motion, Rick seconded the motion. All right, Jared, roll call, please.
The motion, to make sure it's the staff recommendation is the motion.
The city attorney just told me to confirm the motion is to adopt resolution 2013-3224 approving the conditional use permits.
Yes.
Mayor Reese,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barnett, Councilwoman Fasenelli, Councilman Mills,
Yes.
Councilwoman Pauly.
It's going to be a great addition to the community, yes.
Yeah, it is definitely. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, next we have another public hearing. Our second hearing tonight is to consider an after-the-fact variance permit at 18922 Santiago Boulevard. Jared, do you have a report on that?
I believe we'll pass this one off to Tyler again.
Okay, Tyler.
All right, good evening again, Mayor and members of the
Gather up.
council. Tonight's second agenda item is variance permit number 0735. The applicant, Mr. Sam Olson, is proposing to replace, he's already replaced an old wood fence with a new security fence and gate in the front yard at their property at 18922 Santiago Boulevard. Currently, the property is developed with a two-story with a, give me 1 second. Oh. Sorry, guys. Well, it's currently developed with a two-story, 10,343 square foot single-family residence and a second dwelling unit of 1,150 square feet. As you can see in the slide, the home fronts Santiago Boulevard and sits just east of Patrician Drive. The lot is 36,000 square feet and has approximately 254 feet of frontage and an average depth of 188 feet. The applicant has already replaced the existing 6-foot-high wood fence with a new masonry and wrought iron security gate and fence within the setback of the front yard. The gate ranges in height from 36 to 76 inches and has setbacks that range from 12.5 feet to 25.5 feet. The car entrance, located on the western front portion of the property, has a setback of 25.5 feet, allowing sufficient space for vehicles to safely pull in and out without interfering with traffic on Santiago Boulevard. The height of the entrance gate is measured at 6.3 feet. Municipal Code Section 23-6.11 requires the height of a wall or fence to be no higher than 3.5 feet within the first 20 feet of the front property line. This code section also limits the height of a wall or fence to 6 feet when built beyond that 20-foot front yard setback. As shown in the plans, the setback of the wall and fence is 12.5 feet from the property line, with a height exceeding 3.5 feet, thus requiring a variance. In addition, the entrance gate has a height of 6.3 feet with a setback of 25.5 feet, requiring a variance. Staff was able to make all the necessary findings to support a variance. The property fronts Santiago Boulevard and has a large frontage, leaving the home open and exposed. There are many homes in Villa Park on less traveled streets that have higher fences and gates closer to the street. Also, there are no homes directly across the street and adjacent to the property, leaving it more isolated and vulnerable for vandalism and intruders. So other than the application for the variance, the applicant is in compliance with all the E4 development standards, and staff recommends approval of conditional or variance permit number 0735.
Great, thank you, Tyler.
Any questions?
Council members, any questions for staff?
Thanks.
Seeing none, is there anyone here in the audience that would like to speak on this issue? Moving right along. Very good. I'm assuming there's no final comments from council. Looks pretty straightforward. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll move.
Rick moves it.
I'll second.
Councilwoman Fasenelli
I
seconds.
second.
Jared?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just confirming, motion is to adopt resolution 2013-3225 approving the variance permit. Mayor Pro Tem Barnett.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasenelli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pauly.
Yes.
Councilman Mills.
Yes.
Mayor Reese.
Yes. Thank you. Very nice. Okay, item 3 is our final hearing tonight. It's to consider an ordinance that would allow the sale of safe and sane fireworks. Jared, do you have a report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tyler's pulling up just a brief PowerPoint for the benefit of the public in attendance tonight. And while it loads, I will begin. This is ordinance, let me flip to it. 2013-574. It was introduced at our meeting last month by, is that working? By Mayor Reese and Mayor Barnett, Mayor Pro Tem Barnett. City Council voted 5-0 to direct staff to prepare such ordinance. And while Ryan figures out the projector, it has some of the key elements, which is what I want. There we go. First reading, fireworks ordinance, tonight's council meeting. If we go to the next slide, we can walk you through the background of the process. Again, this was introduced at our meeting last month. The first reading is tonight, February 26th. If council so chooses and approves the first reading, the second reading would be at our next meeting on March 26th, and then it would become effective 30 days after, making it April 26th, I believe, is the meeting. A lot of 26s in there. Next slide. Key elements of the ordinance is that this is on a one-year trial basis, and it expires after this year unless extended by the City Council. A lot of thought went into how many permits will be issued. My suggestion is that we issue up to 3 permits. One of them going to the Foundation, the Rotary, the Women's League, and the Friends of the Library to be shared as a joint venture. The second one would go to the school, parent, faculty, student organizations to be shared. And then the third one, if they find a location, would be issued by lottery, and that lottery would take place at a City Council meeting, likely in May. The next slide, please. Stand locations. Now here is the tricky part. We are a 99.9% residential community. I can imagine 99% of our population doesn't want a residential fireworks stand in their front yard. We don't have any space for it, so I suggest allowing stands here on private property in the commercial zone or on public land at the discretion of the city. I was thinking to myself, where do we have public land? We really don't. If we had a park or a community center elsewhere, this would be a common location for it in the parking lot, but we just don't have such locations. So the second alternative is going to be at Villa Park High School at the discretion of the Orange Unified School District. When the applicant comes in with their application, I'm requiring a signed statement from the owner of record. The natural location for the Towne Centre here would be in the middle of the parking lot, and the property lines are kind of vague. It would either be Rouse or Mr. Ferkel and Mr. Brodsky's property, I'd imagine. So one of them will have to sign it, allowing the fireworks stand on their property. Stands will not be permitted in the residential zone, so up off of Mesa or Valley is not an ideal location for a stand. The dates and the hours of sale. Now again, this is all to be set by the policy of the City Council. My suggestion is that we begin fireworks sales on June 28th from the hours of 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., on July 4th from the hours of 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. This allows for 82 total hours of sale over 7 days. Hours of discharge, again at your discretion. I suggest on July 4th only from 10 to noon, or from noon to 10 p.m. 10 p.m. aligns with the city's noise ordinance. We're going to have some strays that are going to be lit off at 11 p.m. or midnight. That's to be expected. Not everybody will play by the rules, but at least we can set 10 p.m. Often you'll find some cities who have allowed fireworks to be discharged over the entire period, 7 to 8 day period, whatever is at the policy discretion of the council. Fireworks may not be discharged here in the town center, on school grounds, or on any public property with the exception of the residential right-of-way. That means somebody cannot go out into the middle of Villa Park Road and decide to light off their own fireworks show. If you read the ordinance, it's adjacent to a dwelling unit, so this makes sense on your private cul-de-sac, on your residential streets that are not arterials or collectors, or on the Wanda Greenbelt, which would be the public land. Safety and education, they will have to go through the city's application permitting process, and part of the code says that they need a safety inspection and clearance from the city, meaning planning and building, as well as Orange County Fire Authority prior to opening. And the stand operator would have to schedule that with OCFA themselves. Stands must provide a city-approved flyer with every purchase outlining the restrictions. Now, this is something, again, the stand operators will have to design, submit to us for approval, and we'll sign off on it. This is no fireworks in the, everything we just went over. No fireworks in the CN zone on public grounds. You have to be 16, 18, 25, 21 to purchase the fireworks, so that will be determined at a later date. And then all stands require a 24-hour watch person. When I was drafting the ordinance, I took a look at the other 8 cities that allowed them here in the county, and there's no rhyme or reason between any of them. They're all tailored to specific organizations or to specific entities and cities. The 24-hour watch person is required just in case a fire happens in the middle of the night. Who's going to be keeping an eye on it, and it might burst into flames. OCFA would be happy because they get to come out and put out a fire. I'm sure it would be a nice one.
Or it could be theft or something.
Or it could be theft.
Who knows?
The alternative to that is cities I've seen have written in restriction where the operators of the stand are to remove all the inventory and lock it in a fireproof, safe container. And I don't think we want a cargo shipping container right next to the fireworks stand to house it. Those are just some key points out of the ordinance. It's before you, and I am available for any questions.
Great, thank you, Jared. All right, council members, any questions of staff on this item?
I just wanted to commend Jared. Jared, I read through that, and frankly, I didn't have anything to add, and I thought you did a great job. I do have one little mark on section 12.2 or 12-2.4 B3 about the owner's consent.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
It's
12
I got the number.
it's 12-2.4, 12-2.4. B as in boy.
Yes.
3. In the last sentence, where it requires the owner's written consent. I think it ought to be owner or authorized person or representative or something. You may have an owner that's out of the country that had a tenant there for 20 years that controls it. I don't think you're going to want the owner of records required signature. I would think you're just going to want the authorized party.
So noted. Yeah, we would. We often work with the property manager,
Right.
As long as they get that.
But this wouldn't be consistent. So I thought you did a great job. I didn't have any comments on it.
Great, thank you. Councilwoman Passanelli?
Yeah, I put a call in to the city of Buena Park, who's had fireworks now for several years that they brought back into the city. And it was brought back in by a vote because the city council had originally denied them having fireworks, making it illegal. And then they went in and they voted it. So I asked them what kind of problems they had since it came in. It's obviously a larger city. The demographics are different. Homes are smaller. What type of crime they had. I wanted to know if they had any injuries, if they had any large fires. And their response was, it's not been an issue. I asked for anything, and they said it's not been an issue. The trash hasn't been an issue. The noise hasn't been an issue. They have an issue with block parties, but they don't allow block parties in Buena Park. So they can't have big block parties for 4th of July. We don't have that kind of an ordinance, but we like block parties here in Villa Park. So we couldn't really do that, but they don't have that. So just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that I made that phone call. I talked to them to find out what was happening. As far as the ordinance goes, as it's written, I have a problem with a person having to be 25 years old. I think the age of majority of being an adult is 18, whether we like it or not, regardless of what the issue is, other than drinking. If you're 18, you're an adult. So I think you should be able to buy your fireworks. You should be able to sign your documents, and it works everywhere else. I can't imagine, having someone have to be 25 years old to.
Was
to
it
buy
actually
sparklers.
buying, or was it actually lighting them off?
It's to be pre-approved. The 24-hour security person has to be pre-approved, over 25. Everything in here is
I see.
25.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, if I can touch on that, the way I wrote it is no person under the age of 18 shall be allowed to purchase the fireworks. If you're
Right.
under 18, you have to be under the supervision of an adult over 25 in order to light them off.
right, but you're 18 years old, and you're allowed to drive. You're allowed to go any place except where there is alcohol. So I just don't think a person at the age of 25 has to be around them.
And just for the record, for the state, the age limit to buy fireworks is 16.
Yes,
No kidding.
I do know that.
16. Wow.
yeah, I do know that.
Interesting. Mayor Pro Tem Barnett.
I'd like to address that for a second, because I agree with the 18 concept generally, and if it's an 18-year-old's going to buy it, I suppose that's probably okay. And I suppose if an 18-year-old's going to light it, and presumably it's going to be in his front yard or friend's front yard or something, I suppose that's probably okay. I thought what this had addressed on the 25 was if there were younger children below the age that were present, so for them to become involved there, then we wanted somebody 25 or older. Didn't want to make an 18-year-old responsible for other people as opposed to himself and younger kids. That was my concern.
That was your intent, but except you can have a 22-year-old and have a child, and what if they're around there? I just
That's
see
the
you
interesting
have
point.
issues.
Yeah, if it's your own child, I suppose, and you're not 25, it's pretty tough to say you can't
Yeah,
do it.
that's-
So maybe an exception that says 25 unless it's your children, in which case you could be younger. I really hate to see 18-year-olds responsible for fireworks with younger children. I'm the one that brought that up last
Yeah.
time. That's my only concern. I agree with you. If someone's mature enough and they've got their own child there, I think they're going to be careful.
Yeah.
And I don't care about the 25. But if it's not their child, and it's some kid that's 18 or 19 or 20 years old, I still have some concern with it because of the minors that are there. I agree with you on the 18 being responsible for himself. He's old enough to blow himself up. So,
Okay, well, let's that was a good discussion.
Yeah,
Let's
sure.
table that
Let's
for a
go on
moment, because we have a lot
Sure.
more comments and thoughts about this, and we can come back to that. Any other council member comments on this before we invite the public?
Yes, I thought the ordinance was very well written, and I actually think that the age limit here is appropriate. It's also by design from the amalgamation of all the other different 8 cities in Orange County that you've checked out, Jared. I think that a 25 age is appropriate, and it'd be the 1 year, and we'll see how it turns out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Mills. Okay, is there anyone here in the public that would like to come speak to this issue?
Mary Zilzel, 18202 Montana Circle, here in Villa Park. I have just a couple of questions and a few comments. First of all, what impact will fireworks sales have on residents' homeowner insurance policies as a result of increased fire hazard? I contacted my agent, State Farm, today and confirmed that my residence's location will not be affected by increased premiums, but have we confirmed what other insurers for residences near open, brushy, dry areas might have an opinion on? Secondly, what will be the cost to the city for additional liability insurance and increased enforcement by fire and police agencies? The staff time cost or taxpayer expense is estimated in your report to be $1,130 per permit, exclusive of additional insurance premiums and OCFA, OCSD time. I noted in the grand jury report that the 5 cities at the time of the 2007-2008 report reported that they incurred expenses not covered by the sales in these amounts: Buena Park $30,000, Costa Mesa $18,170, Garden Grove $100,000, Santa Ana $34,564, and Stanton $5,217, for a total of $187,951 of excess taxpayer funds for the enforcement. Third, how effective is the enforcement going to be limiting the detonation to July 4th, when ethnic cultures that are represented in our community standardly use fireworks to celebrate such holidays as Tet, Chinese New Year, Cinco de Mayo, New Year's Eve, etc., as occurs in these cities that do have existing fireworks safe and sane sales. I personally assisted with the Villa Park Band Boosters fireworks sales in the late 1970s and early 80s. I also served on the grand jury, and I respect the findings of the 2007-2008 grand jury revisiting the 1988-89 grand jury's call for a total ban on safe and sane fireworks. I have a copy of the report, and I'm sure, since it's included on the report on the line, that all of you have read it, but in case any of you in the audience may be interested, I'm just going to touch on a few of the highlights in this report from the 2007-2008 grand jury. They recommended that the sale of legal fireworks be discontinued and that cities take a more active role in encouraging total or local community nonprofit groups to raise funds in other ways for their organizations. This was based on an interview with the personnel and fire department from those cities that were that had legal, safe, and sane fireworks. Those against the sale of legal fireworks lobby city councils often to place the vote before the voters, and many of these city councils have not done so to see whether their residents really do indeed want this sale. The grand jury found that city and safety officials are unable to enforce some municipal ordinances due to the sheer volume of illegal activities. For instance, most cities have an ordinance prohibiting the detonation of legal fireworks on public streets, public sidewalks, and city property. But despite these ordinances and restrictions, it still occurs that they're set up in the street, creating damage, debris going into the storm drains, etc. Safety officials stated that roving gangs come from as far away as San Diego to ignite illegal fireworks in the Orange County cities that allow legal fireworks, masking their activities as being part of the legal fireworks. In another city, rival gang members fashioned shoulder-mounted kind of grenade launchers out of PVC pipe using legal and illegal fireworks combined. It's not unusual in some neighborhoods to see rows of stepladders on streets to elevate the detonation of legal fireworks for visual effect, which compounds the smoke problem. A nonprofit organization in one city stopped selling legal fireworks as a fundraiser 3 years ago when bottle rockets were shot over and at their own booth on the 4th of July. Safety officials in several municipalities abutting the cities that allow the sale of legal fireworks were asked if their cities were negatively affected by these sales during the 4th of July. It was their unanimous opinion that the sale of legal fireworks significantly impacts their cities. Animal control officers see a dramatic spike in call for services on the 4th of July and in the days following because of the increase in runaway animals, largely due to the Piccolo Petes, which are legal fireworks. The grand jury found safety officials to be unanimous in their opinion that the sale of legal fireworks should be banned. Their use contributes to the injury of persons, usually children, and the destruction of private and public property. I don't know why, since I value the findings of the grand jury, I don't understand why we would want to fly in the face of these findings. I find it hard to understand why we're pursuing this. It contributes to a host of undesirable results which can be avoided by finding other sources of revenue for nonprofit community organizations like VPCSF, VPWL, FOVPL, etc. Lastly, while in college, I served a summer internship with the occupational therapist at Tacoma Children's Orthopedic Hospital, which specializes in the reconstruction of hands, fingers, and faces of children. The horrors that I witnessed during the week of July 4th made it very clear to me at the age of 18 that no fireworks are safe and no sane user is protected. Villa Park is proud of its commitment to being a safe community for children and families. This ordinance is inconsistent with that image. I ask that we preserve the quiet, safe city we enjoy and remain a good neighbor to adjoining cities by limiting our fireworks enjoyment to each 4th of July to organized displays such as the annual event at Kelly Stadium in Orange. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, any other speakers? Seeing none, council members, I bring it back up to us for any further discussion on it.
On section E, let's see, where are we? 12-2.5, section E, Jared. This is where the schools, we need to add in here that they're going to share this one permit. It doesn't have that language in there.
Yes, this was photocopied before we found that correction. In section D above it, it says the community organizations, blah, 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 to be shared as a joint venture. We're just going to add that into section E as well. And then one of my goofs, I do apologize, is I called it section 12, but it's actually should be section 11.
The whole thing?
Transpose the number, the whole thing. So we'll just change the 12 to 11. And then to answer some of Ms. Silzel's questions, the impact on the insurance, to tell the truth, I didn't call State Farm or Allstate or whoever your homeowner's insurance is through to see if there'd be any impact. But additional costs to the city for enforcement, that would be a policy direction by, again, the city council. I called the sheriff's department, and our overtime rate for one deputy is $68.41, give or take, for 1 hour. So for 4 deputies, for 8 additional hours, the total's $2,189, roughly. The city council budgets $17,000 a year for such directed special assignments. I'm not sure what the overtime cost is for OCFA if we were to get another engine out here, but I can only imagine they're going to be on routine patrol anyways.
I don't think there'll be any additional cost.
Yeah.
Not aware of
It should a 911 call happen and they have to respond, it would just be covered under mutual aid, so we wouldn't have any impact under that. It would just be for additional deputies or an additional OCFA assignment if council so choose.
I think the ordinance is tightly written. When I did speak with the city of Buena Park, I mean, they allow them to have they can actually let off the fireworks. I think it's 4 or 5 days. And here we're limiting it to just 4th of July. So
Yeah.
it's
And
tight.
it's a
It's
one-year
very
trial,
tightly
to
written. So
try it
it's
out.
good. Yeah.
Any final comments from council
I
before I
have-
ask for a motion? Councilman Pauly?
Rick's got
I
more.
have a brief one, just to briefly elaborate on Councilwoman Fasanelli's comment about checking with Buena Park, and also on Mrs. Zell's comments about the impact on the community. I recall last time we were here, there was a TNT representative here, and I think he attested to the fact that 25 cities, sounded like they already had the fireworks permit, 25 cities decided to put it to ballot with their populations, and he indicated all 25 cities, the communities, put it back in on popular vote. That I know that stuck in my head, so if any of you weren't here, I just want to share that.
Yeah. And of course, that costs money to go to vote, as we all know, and we wouldn't want to spend money on that. I don't feel, not for a one-year trial.
I wasn't advocating a vote. I was merely indicating that, as I understood his comments, cities that had it and councils, it sounded like councils had some concern and decided they were going to put it to the population to let them see what they want to do, if they want to stay with it or not. And 25 out of 25 put it back in. What that tells me is that there's a lot of cities with a lot of populations that don't have a problem with it, decided to keep it on popular vote. That's pretty rare. You see 25 out of 25 on anything.
Yeah, it's a good data point.
Just a data point.
Very good data point. Councilman Pauly, I believe you were going to go?
Yes. Well, and I did call a friend of mine in Fullerton. They did put it to a vote, and it did pass because I wanted to understand what was going on there, because there was a disconnect between what the grand jury report said and what our list of cities. I want to preface everything I say with this statement. I grew up with fireworks. I grew up with my father shooting bottle rockets and all kinds of things in the streets. I do know that people in the city of Villa Park do shoot fireworks. I don't believe that they're the safe and sane fireworks. I think it's a very American thing to do. However, I do believe that we need to be cautious about rushing something through. There's a balance between absolute freedom and safety, and it's our job as a council to find that balance. I just want to preface that. I have several concerns. One of them is that, as you pointed out, Jared, there is very little public property that would be appropriate for setting up sales. You mentioned Wanda, that Wanda Greenbelt. I certainly would not like to see us set up a fireworks stand on that Wanda Greenbelt.
Who suggested that?
We're just talking about where.
We would never do
okay,
that, Deborah.
but we've got it. If you've got it listed in here that that's one of the allowable locations, that's within the city's, the city manager's discretion. I don't want to see that. All right, very good.
Not in the residential zone.
Well, that
I'd
would be
consider it and likely take it to the CDC for approval.
okay. Very good. Very good. I'm wondering, this is our first year, this is our test year. And it usually takes a couple of years, a few years before the word starts getting out. I know that the fire authority puts out a press release saying which cities allow it, mostly as a warning to people who think that you can do it anywhere you want, and that it'll take a few years before the word starts getting out. So our test year may not really give us a full picture of what the long-term impact will be 3, 4 years, 5 years down the road after people actually start understanding, hey, you can go to Villa Park and get your fireworks. Hey, you can go to Villa Park and shoot them off. The other thing I have a problem with, and I asked for this today, I was thinking that this SB 839 was going to give us a picture of the definition of safe and sane fireworks, and it didn't. And then this is referenced in the ordinance. I don't really know the difference between safe and sane fireworks and unsafe fireworks, what's legal and what's illegal. I wanted to get a real feel for the city, what the city thought about this, because this is a real quandary for me. I've got part of me says freedom, and part of me says, eeks, are we opening a bad can of worms? Because none of the cities around us allow this. And one woman, sweetest little woman, I would never have thought that she would write like this. She said, safe and sane fireworks is an oxymoron, and I appreciated the lack of PC when she wrote, and if the council approves this, they are morons. That's what she said. So I had a lot of different input, though. I had people that said they didn't know how they felt about it. I had some of the old timers talking about fires that had started with the use of fireworks and that were threatening to the city of Villa Park. I started thinking about the discussions we've had earlier last year about the high hazard fire zone that was established. What happens if we start allowing them to blow them off there and something happens, after we've made these promises about, keeping that area safe, and we've created our whole city now as a high hazard fire zone, apparently. I'm concerned about that. I would like to understand the difference between safe and sane, what's going to be allowed legally, and would still be illegal. Because when this was first presented to us, my first thought was, wow, you know what? The residents are doing it anyway. And you brought that up, Rick. Residents are doing it anyway. However, I believe that what the residents are shooting off right now, and they do it because they're Americans, illegally, and then they run back in their house, are probably not going to be legal under the definition of safe and sane fireworks. So are we unnecessarily calling attention to our residents and our community by opening ourselves up with this? These are questions that need to be answered. And I also wrote down, what about New Year's Eve? Because residents shoot things off on New Year's Eve. Are we going to open this up for New Year's Eve? I like the whole idea of where we could not allow the discharge of these fireworks. I liked what was there, but then I started wondering, how are we going to enforce that? You're saying that only residents can shoot it off in the street in front of their house, right? How do we know if they're residents or not? Are we going to be requiring the sheriff to run around saying, do you live here, do you live here, please prove to me you live here? And how are we going to have them required to show ID? I didn't see anything about that here. I agree with you. The legal age is 18. The legal age is 18, period. You know, if a man, a woman can go off and serve our country and fire an M16, he can surely handle a firework. So I'm not worried about that. However, allowing minors without parents or legal guardian, and that's what I want to see happening. If we're going to allow with a 25-year-old watching over the minor, that shouldn't happen. It needs to be a parent or legal guardian that's watching over this minor if we allow this. These are just some of the issues that that are coming through as I'm reading this thing. I did want to talk a little bit more about the timeline for the test period, because as Jared did a great job laying it out, this would be the first reading. Assuming we just pass it just the way it is with a couple of minor changes, it'll come back next month. We'll have a second reading, and it doesn't become law until the end of April. And yet in this, you're telling all of these nonprofit organizations that between April 1 and the end of April, that's when they apply to get one of these permits. Are they allowed to start applying for the permit before it actually becomes law? Okay, so that can happen. Okay, very good, because I wasn't sure about that. And then in August, we're going to say the end of August, this whole thing terminates if we don't take further action. But we're requiring reporting from these nonprofit organizations to us, and I don't believe the end of August is going to give us a good enough opportunity to truly assess things. So I think that if it passes, then you're going to have to make a modification there and say that this thing continues on until September or October. That gives us adequate opportunity to bring in all the input, getting the proper reporting in from the nonprofit organizations about what kind of funds they've made, and then we can look at, do we continue it or not? Okay, so I think that needs to be extended if we're going to do this. I had a question under 12-2. Now it's 11-2.4B5. It says, and when we're talking about permitting requirements, it includes a statement that the applicant agrees to comply strictly with the terms of any temporary stand permit granted to it and furnish any additional information on request of the city manager, the city council, or their authorized employees or representatives. What's the mechanism by which a city council would make additional requests? Does that have to be a group action? Can a single council member go out and act unilaterally? I want to understand how that mechanism is in place. Do you have an answer?
Sure. Well,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
the city council say when they're issuing temporary use permits are issued, and it's, somebody has an issue and it's agendized at the council meeting, and the council could say, hey, we need this additional type of information. It would be a collective action. I mean, you can't go out there and ask people for more info individually. Correct.
Okay. So it has to be the council as a whole.
Yes.
Okay. Then up above this on 4, when it talks about that the permit be accompanied by an agreement from the manufacturer and or wholesaler of the safe and sane fireworks to defend, indemnify, and hold the city harmless from any claims, liability, litigation, damages, or other injuries resulting from defective safe and sane fireworks. And I'm wondering, well, how do you know if it was defective or not? What about liability for damages of those that weren't defective? Are we opening ourselves up in any way as a city to liability because we're allowing this? And something goes wrong. Stanton, you burn a house down in Stanton, $250,000, it's right back up. Burn a house down in Villa Park, well, that's a whole different story. And I'm wondering, are we going to be liable in some way if we pass this and something goes awry?
No. It's a legal option for the city to follow under state law. Cities are generally immune from ordinances of this nature under the Tort Claims Act. So, no. Now, that is not to say someone could claim we're liable and file a lawsuit. So there's the differential between actually, not being liable at the end of litigation and having the costs attendant to somebody filing a lawsuit against you. Those are still real dollars you pay someone like me to defend the city, but at the end of the day, we'd be fine.
Okay. Yeah, so we could just deny it like we would do anytime anybody files a lawsuit against us. Got it. Okay. Then it talks about the applicant shall comply with any and all state or county requirements. Have we looked into what those county requirements might be? Have we? What are they? In Orange County. I know you've written these for other cities,
Well,
other counties.
that's just sort of a catch-all in case anything came up through OCFA or otherwise. It's really, it would be the city's law that governs, and I'm not aware of any other specific county ones that would kick in.
Okay.
That would just make sure we're not missing something type of thing.
Placed a phone call to the state for the state's temporary stand permit application procedure. It's a $50 application fee, and then the state hands that duty off to the Orange County Fire Authority to go out there and inspect. So as you can imagine, somebody up in Sacramento is not going to come down here and just inspect a little 40 square foot stand for us.
So we do have to get approval then from the state as well?
Not us, the temporary stand permit
Okay.
holders.
But that comes down here, OCFA takes care of that, since it charges the $50. When I was looking with OCTA obviously charges, because when they were giving the report to Costa Mesa, which she just took over Costa Mesa, they have a cost recovery of $436. You didn't?
No.
Oh, what? I'm sorry. Well, when they were giving their report, they said they have a cost recovery of $436 to cover the inspections. Would that extend to the city of Villa Park as well? That would be.
City fire department, not a.
I'm talking about. Oh no, this was OCFA. This was OCFA's cost recovery. What is the cost recovery?
For the,
If we have inspections, you're going to have to inspect,
correct,
and you're going to have to approve the permit.
correct.
Is there going to be a charge?
We have a fee schedule for that, yes.
And you don't know what it was?
I don't know. Do you know what it is?
You're correct. It's $436.
Thank you.
That's for the inspection.
Okay. I thought I understood when they were bidding on this, they had given a full report out on, and that was because Costa Mesa is one of the cities that allows it. And I was just trying to understand this. I'm trying to understand how we're going to enforce it. I'm trying to understand how we're going to keep people from coming into our city and blowing off fireworks on the streets. And I still don't have an adequate answer for that.
Well, I mean, I can answer that. I mean, those are fair questions. Invariably, there will be people coming in from out of town to put fireworks on. Are we going to go door to door and check IDs for, kids in front of their house? No, obviously not. We work on a complaint-based sort of process. The situation would be somebody's in their house, they see people they don't know in front of their house, they call the police and say, remove them. This gives us a mechanism to do that. So it has a function, if not in every situation. As far as the amount of the fee in 11-2.4B1, we're going to put the amount of the fees in a resolution that'll come back to you. If you approve this tonight, it'll come back at the next meeting. And usually you put fees in a resolution because you can change them without having to rewrite the whole ordinance again. So
Right.
that dollar amount isn't in there, but as the fire department said, that would be included as part of that.
Right.
We're not exactly sure what that fee will be. That'll be discussed next time. And we're going to need feedback on the amount of what that fee should be. So, but that's anticipated.
Okay. Those are some of the questions this has raised for me. Those are some of the comments that I have to make about it. I don't know that I feel comfortable approving it, but I do think if you're going to and you're going to have an assessment period, you need to push it back a couple of months. You must do that because you won't really have a full wrap-up, and yet you're going to have this thing die or else review it at the end of August. I mean, that's what the time frame would actually be, legitimately. So I've had residents that have given me feedback from all over the place. To they don't know what to think, to I hate it, to it's American. So it really is, as the grand jury report indicated, pretty divisive. People are either they're one way or the other. I just I think I would feel more comfortable if our surrounding cities or the county was also allowing this. I think when we're just the only one right here with our just sticking out like a sore thumb.
We got Santa Ana. It's not that far away.
Yes.
It's on 17th
Yes.
Street. Tustin
We
and
have Santa Ana. We
it's
have
17th
Santa
and
Ana.
17th and
We
Tustin
have
is where everyone buys it.
Stanton. You're right.
Well, that's
You're
where
right.
you go to 17th.
You're right.
The claim jumper is.
You're right.
So
Santa Ana and Stanton, and I just don't see Villa Park in the same
Huntington Beach,
circle.
Fullerton.
Yeah.
Fullerton just passed it. Yeah.
right.
So who knows what's going to happen
Are
there?
you done,
Anyway,
Deborah?
I'm done with my comments. I just those are my thoughts.
Have you closed the public hearing?
I'll be happy to reopen it for you, Mr. Seisel, if you'd like to come up front, please.
I was on city council, I guess I better do the right thing.
I don't know what this is. I don't understand the difference.
Wayne Silsal, 18202 Montana Circle. I was on the city council when we had to decide, we went through the same thing. And fortunately, the decision was pretty easily made to do a ban after still a lot of give and take. We had a fire, which a roof fire, and that pretty much made the decision in the community. And that's been almost 30 years ago. And now most of our roofs are not shake like they were then, so that risk is certainly lower. There are some. But I kind of thought we'd hear an outcry of opposition from the fire authority and the sheriff's department tonight, but apparently they're acquiesced to the will of the council. We'll see how the deputies act on the 4th of July, but they may be a little fatigued, but that's their job to serve. So, but it was the opinion of the council for all the reasons you've stated, particularly those, Deborah, that you have, the lack of control, enforcement. Those were things that will plague us no matter what ordinance you pass. And that will plague the deputies on the street with enforcement, because I didn't shoot it off in the street. I shot it off in the tree lawn, but it landed in the street. You know, give me a dozen reasons, particularly if you're threatened, you'll figure out an excuse. So at any rate, that was basically the issue. And we did turn it down. And we joined other cities for that reason. So for what it's worth, we've been there, seen it, done it. Good luck.
Thank you, Wayne. All right. Any final comments from council?
Can I just
are we ready to make a motion?
Can I just ask a question? Can we just have the fire? Somebody must know the difference between safe and sane and the illegal. What makes them different? Yes. I would like to understand what's going to be legal.
I can even answer that one. It's not a hard one, but let's let the professionals answer, even though I was going to do it.
So it's pretty straightforward. Safe and sane have the state fire marshal's seal of approval.
Right.
So you can pick up any legal firework and look for that seal of approval.
Right.
And you know if it's there, it's legal. If it's not there, it's illegal. It's as simple as that.
It is simple as that.
And just, yeah.
To add to that, functionally the difference, illegal fireworks leave the ground and travel into the air, or they're held in your hand. Safe and sane are not held in your hand. They're not designed to leave the ground, and they have a certain radius in which the sparks are contained within. So as a functional difference, that's the difference between safe and sane and illegal fireworks.
But sparklers are held in your
If you
hand.
hold a sparkler in your
All right.
hand, it becomes
And
illegal.
bottle rockets then would be illegal.
Correct.
Fireworks are always illegal.
Yes.
All right.
As are
And then-
skyrockets, as are Roman candles.
And then
as
the
are-
fireworks that you light, and sometimes you light one at a time and throw them, or sometimes you light a whole string
You're
of
not
them.
supposed to throw
Those
them.
are illegal.
If you pick a safe and sane up and you throw it, it became illegal.
That's
Okay.
illegal.
Oh, I see.
And
All
just as a point of reference, sparklers are the #1 cause of injuries of legal or safe and sane fireworks. So the one you think is the safest is actually the one that causes the most injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen little children's hands burned by them. I've seen it.
And just on the record, we came last month and spoke of opposition to it.
Yeah.
So we're still opposed to
Yeah.
it. I just,
Okay.
she did an excellent job on the grand jury's report, so there was no need for me to
Yeah.
repeat any of that.
Thank you very much. All right. Any final comments?
Yes, I'd like to address the issue of on the ground. And I noticed that I know people do put it on ladders or tables, things like that. And I believe your comment's well taken, Chief, that it's illegal at that point if it's off the ground. And that should be probably, if things proceed and we are allowed to sell, then maybe a little flyer should go out with that sale saying, this is how it's going to be. And if we get to that point, that's and as Wayne also pointed out, that almost all the roofs except for I think mine in the city of Villa Park are not shake anymore. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still a few.
This is an interesting issue, is it?
Go ahead.
It's raising kind of an interesting issue. is it illegal to use a safe and sane on an elevated position on a concrete block instead of on the street? I wasn't aware of that.
If you do something to a safe and sane firework that makes it leave the ground, now if it's functioning on a surface that's stationary, that's not an issue. But if you do something that makes it leave the ground and travel, away from the way it's designed, then it becomes illegal at that point.
That's fine. That I understand. There's a little confusion. So it becomes, you don't want it to become airborne and, so to speak, out of control. You want to put it on a ladder step or on a step ladder or a concrete block. That's a whole nother matter as long as it's stationary.
Right, but if you put a ground bloomer on a ladder and then it's spun off the ladder, then you've crossed a line.
Right. Exactly. All right, this is a first reading. Do we have a motion? Todd, do you have a comment? No. Oh, looked like you were all ready to rock over there.
Since it's an ordinance, whoever reads it, so it probably shouldn't be Councilman Barnett, needs to read the entire title when you make the motion.
Do I have a motion for this?
And whoever makes the motion, we're going to need direction on the changes that were suggested. A couple that I would say are warranted, obviously change the number 12 to 11. Councilwoman Pauly suggested of pushing back the date before it becomes ineffective. We were thinking the day after the December meeting, November meeting of
Says
November.
August 31, I would say push it to like the October council meeting. That gives you more than adequate time to collect, all the information you'll need.
Right, and then obviously there was some discussion about the 25-year age issue, so whoever makes the motion.
Be 18, and then is
just
there a
clarify.
place in here that talks about having children having to be, they can't sell it, they have to be 18 in order to sell.
Mm-hmm.
But is there, and they aren't supposed to play with them at all. Is that true? Well, that's going to be a tough one. Yeah.
Under, for the purpose it's written, under 12.2,
Yes.
3D, no person under the age of 18 shall use or discharge any safe and sane fireworks, except when under the direct supervision.
I really think that it needs to say parent or legal guardian. Do you really want an 18-year-old handing your kids sparklers? Do you? I don't.
I concur with that. I think
I don't
that's,
have a problem with that.
Yeah.
That's
The
fine.
only
Parent or
concern,
legal guardian.
the only concern with that is how many of us have 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old children that are going to go to Bob and Glenda's house who are 45 years old down the street and going to be down there with all their kids shooting fireworks. And I don't want to tell Bob and Glenda that they're not competent to let my 16-year-old watch them shoot the fireworks. So I think the reality is
Okay.
that maybe we should put a young, if it's younger than such and such.
We
even
can't
harder.
parent.
You really can't.
Okay, we can't document parenthood and document responsibility of adults to children. That's very difficult.
So you want to just put language that says if there's minors, they shall be subject to the control of a responsible person responsible parent or person over 25.
Define responsible.
We all know that. We all know. If we just did that,
Well,
they either have to be 18, or if they're under 18, they have to be under the
Supervision of an adult.
supervision of
Of an adult, which
Of an
is
adult.
18.
Right, it's supervision of an
I
adult.
think if you put either a parent or someone over this age,
Well, I don't think we want 18-year-olds in charge of 17-year-olds. This
Right,
is
right,
a
that's
huge
true.
issue.
Yeah.
I think it should be a parent.
So I think,
Someone over 25.
yeah, so your language is cures the section where we say person under age 18 supervised by someone 25. It should be by their parent or
No,
someone
by
over 25.
a parent or
Anybody's
someone over
parent.
25. Yeah, in other words,
Yeah.
Okay.
if someone has a child, I'll accept they're more than likely going to be responsible and keep an eye out. It seems to just happen. If they're not a parent, then they ought to be at least 25, I think. But
Yeah, because your kids may go to the neighbor's house under their parental supervision.
I remember when I was 25, and I wouldn't want my kids, I wouldn't want me to be responsible for somebody's kids at that point. Maybe I would have been okay. But once I had a kid, don't worry.
Very different. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Don't worry after
The
that.
whole world.
Okay, okay, I got it.
So,
I mean, you could argue about what is apparent, because that seems to be changing every week in the United States. But
that is true. Very true.
we won't get into that debate. We'll just say apparent and. Right.
It's going to be almost impossible to enforce
You
this.
can let him. Now he's going to be
Possible
eligible.
to enforce it, so let's pass it.
It's just going to be, we're going to have responsible language. If a situation arises, then at least they have some criteria to look at and say, okay, look. let's
Right.
see.
Okay. Cool.
So, Todd, do you have all the items memorized
Well,
that we just discussed?
do you have?
Someone read off the exceptions here that we just discussed. Please.
We'll go from the beginning.
Okay.
Page 1 of the ordinance, I do not show any changes. Page 2, letter D would be under the direct supervision and in the presence of an adult over the age of 25 or a parent or legal guardian.
Okay.
And then at the bottom of that page, 12 to 4B3, a signed statement from the owner of record or designated representative of the property must accompany the application. On page 4 in E, we will add to be shared as a joint venture for the school PFSOs. And then at the end, the expiration of the ordinance would be whatever the day after the October City Council meeting is. And those are the 4 changes.
The only comments I have to make, I think, would be, number 1, don't forget your number 11
And
instead
then,
of 12.
yes.
Good one.
And number 2,
Normally, we
on
would
the
bring this back.
paragraph D,
Normally, if you weren't in, I'm sorry.
the
I can't hear you.
25-year-old, where you said 25 or a parent, doesn't need to be that person's parent, just over 25 or a parent, someone with children.
A parent, yes.
A parent.
Not their parent, a parent.
Right. That's all I have.
Okay.
So we are looking for a motion to approve ordinance number 2013-574, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Villa Park, California, adding Article 11-2 to Chapter 11 of the Villa Park Municipal Code relating to safe and sane fireworks with the changes just read by the city manager.
Well said, Mr. City Attorney. Do I have that motion?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem Barnett seconds it. Jared, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Mills. Mayor Pro Tem Barnett.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasenelli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pauly.
No.
Mayor Reese.
Yes.
Motion
Thank you.
carries.
Okay. Next, we have our consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered routine and are usually enacted by one motion, approving the recommended action listed on the agenda. Any member of the city council, staff, or public may request the item to be removed from the consent calendar for discussion or separate action. Council members, are there any items you would like to pull?
Yes. I'd like to pull item 7 and item 10.
7 and 10 for Councilwoman Fasenelli. Okay.
I'd like to pull item 8.
Item 8 for Councilmember Mills.
And items 4 and 9, please.
4 and 9 for Councilwoman Pauly. Are there
Oops, and
any,
I'm sorry,
are there any
and
left over?
I'm sorry. I also would like to pull item 12. I'm sorry. And then,
Item 12,
Yep.
we'll find that here. Item 12 for, okay, and Mayor Pro Tem Barnett would like to pull items 10 and 11. 10 is already pulled by Councilwoman Fasenelli. You have to get behind her.
it is.
And 11 is one that you can pull.
Oh, wow.
All righty, can I get a motion on the balance, please?
So moved. All 3 of those items that are left.
Yeah,
over.
exactly.
Second.
And Mayor Pro Tem Barnett seconds. Jared, please.
Yes, thank you. Councilwoman Pauly.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barnett. Councilwoman Fasenelli.
Yes.
Councilman Mills.
Yes.
Mayor Reese.
Yes. Item 4, Councilwoman Pauly.
This will be very quick. This is the list of warrants. And I wanted to note, for the record, Serrano Water District's water bill was only $570. which is hugely reduced. So I would like to publicly commend the Public Works Department. It means they were out there turning off the sprinklers manually during that period of great rain. That is a huge cost savings. It doesn't happen automatically. That's the only reason I pulled that item. I'll be glad to move it unless there are other comments.
You know, what's funny is after the water bill was zero for a month, Toronto Water District went out and actually replaced the meters, thinking the meters were not reading.
Funny.
Well, this is, I mean, usually what, it's like 2,500, 2,000, 3,000. So this was a huge savings. And so I wanted to just commend, and please be sure to pass that on
Will do.
to Public Works. They did a great job for us there.
Great. So did you make a motion?
Yeah,
Debbie?
I said I'll be glad to move it unless anyone has a comment.
I will second that motion on item 4. Is it a roll call vote?
It is a roll call. Councilwoman Pauly?
Yes.
Mayor Reese?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasenelli?
Yes.
Councilman Mills?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barnett?
Excellent. Thank you so much. Item 7, Councilwoman Fasenelli.
All right. On the foundation, I want to just bring this to the attention of the council. It's not bad, it's not good. But what has occurred here is that we have a lot of directors now sitting on the foundation board. And since the last 2 months, we've actually put on 4 directors have actually been put on. At the last meeting, we had so many directors, but we didn't have anybody who was going to take on any events. And I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention because we have such a wonderful foundation. We have a wonderful community, but we can't just have a foundation that's full of directors that aren't going to take on an event. And I'm going to bring up the picnic, which is a large event if we continue to have the picnic.
Huge event, right?
We're trying very hard. Mr. Mills won't take it over again because he's taken the position up here. And I just want to bring it to everyone's attention. We have some wonderful qualified people, but we don't have any new volunteers coming in. And maybe that's because everyone's tired from the 50th anniversary because we did so much. I don't know. Any thoughts?
Yes, I did talk to Kay about this, and she called me several times to discuss this particular item, like with the picnic that you brought up, Deanna. And we're going to have the picnic, and we have a committee that's going to get together, but we're going to get somebody to head it up, and that's outside the board of directors. And so it will be this will be the last year that we do that in that style. But we want to make sure that we've got a venue, of course. We've got some funding from the foundation, thank you. And also we have some entertainment already lined up and some other things. But the big thing that we need to have in these sorts of things, and I think this is what you're bringing up, is that the foundation board of directors and the city council and the city itself need to really promote it, and that it's the Villa Park area that would like to have everybody come out, because it is held at the Toronto Water District, at their half of the lake, per se, and they're the vendor out there. So we would like to have a very successful event, and it's fun for families and with children of grade school and high school, and even a little larger, or older kids, rather. So if there's anybody that would like to help with that, we've already got 4 or 5 folks lined up, as the usual. And unless there's somebody else that would like to comment, we can certainly open that up right now. And so I think it's a good thing, and it's a good promotion for Villa Park itself. We have a wonderful Halloween event. We have a wonderful boat parade, and I think we've had hits and misses over the years on the Villa Park picnic. So anyway, please, anyone, please say something else.
Thank you. Any other comments about this? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
I second.
Okay.
So you made a motion, and Mayor Pro Tem Barnett seconds. Jared?
Yes. Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Fasenelli.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barnett. Councilwoman Pauly.
Yes.
Councilman Mills.
Yes.
Mayor Reese.
Yes, thank you very much. Item 8 was pulled by Councilmember Mills.
Yes, I just need to abstain from this particular consent item. Due to my wife is mentioned in this, so I need to abstain. That's it.
Good reason.
I will move that we adopt it.
Mayor Pro Tem Barnett moves it. All right, is that a second, or?
No, I think that, no. I just thought that staff should let us know what it is we're talking about.
Well, the only reason it was pulled was to abstain unless you'd like further discussion on it. Were you going to pull it anyways?
No,
Okay.
because
He's
Greg
just
said he was.
abstaining because his wife is on it.
Okay.
This item is in relation to the Villa Park Community Services Foundation and their bylaws. The bylaws state that there shall be no less than 9 directors, must be 18, residents of the city, and not be spouses of council members. Currently, 1 director is sitting in conflict of that, and that is Mr. Mills' wife, Andy.
So we're changing the
So we're-
bylaws of the foundation to accommodate,
Correct. To remove just or spouses of council members, so directors, as volunteers are so sparse, can be spouses of council members.
I don't think it's an accommodation. I actually think it's bad language to say or spouses,
well, and
because-
they do that with the Women's League, though, too. They can't be elected members of the executive board,
Yeah.
and it's just to keep political things away from those volunteer organizations.
Yeah.
That's what I understood, anyway.
Okay,
I move we pass it.
okay, do we have a second?
I second.
Great. Jared, please.
Bylaws require a roll call, so Mayor Pro Tem Barnett,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasenelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pauly?
Abstain.
Councilman Mills abstains. Mayor Reese?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Item 9, Councilwoman Pauly.
This is the update on the progress related to the temporary prohibition, the moratorium on businesses that are not retail or restaurant related. It's time for an update. I do know that we have a couple of people in the audience who would be interested, and so I thought we'd give Jennifer an opportunity to give that update orally.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Plus, since I didn't get to do the other presentations, I'm feeling lacking tonight, not able to speak with you. While we are not required to provide an update each month as promised to the council and to the community, we appreciate Councilmember Pauly allowing us to give this presentation. We want to keep the community apprised of the progress that we started in November when you passed the moratorium urgency ordinance. As you're well aware, we held 4 public workshops with business owners, property owners, and the public at large through the months of January and February. Those have now concluded. Although we have continued to take comments from the public as those have come forward. During the meetings, as well as since those meetings, we've received comments and concerns related to the mix of uses in the center, parking in the center, circulation in the center, landscaping in the center, still related to the sign issues in the center, although we think that they've gotten better since we've made some tweaks to our sign code, but we're still looking at that as well. And some other items that are related to development standards, things like setbacks, building over property lines, and also hours of operation, which is a development standard that we have currently that controls how businesses can operate in our center. So since we finished the public outreach effort and received all that input, now we've gone into the analysis phase. We took the direction from the community as well as the observations that we've seen from the community over years now in studying the town center, and we've started to draft the code that will come back to you for your review. But our next step before we bring that to the council is to first take the draft code to the property owners here in the center because they will be directly impacted by any changes that we make. Of special note that I'll just share with you, not that we've made any specific changes yet to our code, but one of the things that we've found just based on the analysis of our current code today, our parking lot, we are actually underparked. Spaces on the ground, actual lined spaces on the ground for the amount of square footage that we have in our center today and what our code requires us to have in terms of parking. We're about 120 spaces underparked in our center.
We need another 120 spaces?
To meet our current code.
Okay. Okay.
So that is just one indication of how our code is not reflective of how our current operation works. And so even if there weren't anything else that we were looking at, we need to address our parking code, because just by practical matter, we are not allowed to approve uses if we can't find that we have parking to accommodate them. And so we could be in trouble as we move forward if there were vacancies in the center and whatnot. We don't want to have that problem, so we're looking at the code. And again, that's just one small example of some of the things that we've identified in going through this more intensive analysis of how our code works today and what's happening here in the center. So what I explained to a few of the council members that have asked in the meantime, and isn't illustrated in your code, we're taking it through a practical man test as we write this new code. What we want to do is ensure that as we're drafting new sections of the code, that we don't create inconsistencies or unexpected consequences, which can sometimes happen. It sounds really good when it stands by itself, but when it operates with another portion of the code, all of a sudden we've created a new problem that we didn't have before. So as we're drafting this, we're making sure that other things aren't creating conflicts. And then when we walk through with the property owners, I'm very certain that they will point out any unexpected consequences that we haven't already anticipated. So we expect to be doing that in the month of March. And then we'll also be following up with our Community Development Committee and walk you through those drafts as well. Each time we take a draft out to either the property owners or the Community Development Committee, we anticipate that there'll be changes and additional analysis that need to happen. Our anticipated presentation to the council with the draft ordinance will be in April, and that will be, well, that's where we're on target, albeit there could be some significant input that we receive that causes us to need a little bit more analysis. But we are on track for April. We're feeling pretty confident about that, and we look forward to seeing you next month with another update to tell you how it went with the property owners. Any questions you have, be happy to answer them.
Great, thank you, Jennifer. Any questions for Jennifer?
Yes, I have a question. When you mean about underparked, we don't have enough spaces? Now, and then you mentioned that if we have vacancies, what's that mean? It doesn't matter, just by the square footage of the retail space? Is that how it's based?
Yeah, the way that our code works right now is we're required to have 5.5 spaces for every 1,000 square feet of area in our center. So every building that has square footage has to have spaces that correlate to that number. If you take the total square footage in the center and you divide it by the 5.5, we don't have enough spaces on the ground today.
So it doesn't matter whether it's storage or actual customer space?
No, thanks so much for pointing that out. The way that our code works is very different than quite a number of other codes in our county or throughout the state. We don't have a tiered parking standard. We take, it doesn't matter if it's City Hall or if it's a restaurant or if it's Ralph's, they all are parked the very same, even though we know businesses don't operate that way. We also, while we have a shared parking agreement in the center, we don't take into consideration that we have daytime businesses and nighttime businesses, and the offices are primarily closed in the evening, and so those parking spaces aren't being utilized by the same people as they would be in the daytime. My code doesn't allow me to use logic in that way because we don't have that flexibility built in. So I'm hopeful that as we move forward, we'll build in that logic and flexibility to allow us to accommodate what actually happens here in the center rather than just a strict mathematical formula that doesn't quite fit.
Okay, so and that'll be in April sometime, you believe?
To come to the council, yes.
Okay. And is there any feedback from the owners? I mean, we like to keep our owners here very happy, and of course their customers even happier. So any feedback that's other than what you've stated already, like Mr. Gale?
We've met with them. We've extended the opportunity to meet with property owners over the 4 town meetings that we've had so far.
Yes.
And then we will do our initial draft before the council or anybody else sees it. City manager will see it. We will meet with the property owners and have them have first look so that they can give us their reactions and ask us questions and walk us through any concerns that they have.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. Any other questions?
Not a question so much as a comment. This has been quite a process, and you've just done an outstanding job. I'm so far. Proof will be in the pudding. But I do wonder if the members in the audience are interested in making any statements.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure why they were.
Any comments from folks in the audience? Come on up.
My name is David Gale. I'm one of the co-owners of the gas station. I just want to say that our proposed use that we would like to have will not interfere with your parking problems. I believe the bank is looking for, what, 4,000 square feet of improvement, which would be about, what, 22 spaces of parking? Under current code. Well, we want to go with current code. And according to what I've seen, we comply. That's all I want to say.
Thank you so much. All right, Deb, would you like to make a motion?
It was just a receive and file.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Everybody. Good. All right. Item 10 is Councilwoman Fasanelli.
Yeah. At the last water board meeting, this came up, and there's no issue here. They just want to have no parking where the reservoir and the pump is. It's for a safety issue. But what they did say is that there would be no cost to the city. And this here, the physical impact says $300 for new signs and a couple of hours of staff. Water board said there'd be no cost to the city. They were purchasing the staff. They were purchasing the signs and putting them up. So I want to make sure that they pony up the bill and pay for it, not us.
Is that because they can put it on their property? Is that correct? The signs?
No, it's a safety issue. Apparently, over the summer, the cars are parked there 24/7. They don't know why in the summer. Maybe the kids are coming home from college, but you know, you've got millions and millions of dollars in the pump and the reservoir, and it's a safety issue, and they've asked for it.
Okay, so I'm sure that the city will collect.
They've actually gone to the neighbors, and they've asked them, and the neighbors haven't had any issues with it. So.
I'm one of the neighbors.
Yeah.
Oh.
There you go.
Go, you, go.
No, we'll answer you.
Yeah.
It's okay. Nobody here will bite.
Huh.
I show you how to run a business. I'm fine. I'm actually in Orange, but went to Villa Park Elementary, went to Sarah. I just question, it's no big deal. It doesn't inconvenience. Well, it does inconvenience a little bit. Those are my cars that are parked right there. I live directly across the street.
Oh.
What is the safety issue I should be concerned about? I mean, my kids live there. Should I be concerned?
No, they want it.
The favor
They
for a
want
friend,
it
I mean,
clear.
like it's purpose.
They patrol it over the evening. I asked the same thing. What were they afraid of? They
I live
patrol
right
it
there.
over the evening, and they don't want the cars there as they're going in and out.
But they're on front of the gate, so I don't quite understand all that. I'm just curious. Is
Yeah,
it a favor
that
for
was
a friend? I
that
get
was
it.
yeah, that was the answer that they gave me. They're
Yeah, I get all that, but I'm just curious. I just wonder what the purpose of it. For 40 years, it's been great, and all of a sudden now it's an inconvenience. It makes no sense.
Yes, I think they even have a lot better wall now.
They have a bigger bolt wall now, yeah. I'm just wondering, you know, if it's okay, it's something you're doing, you all need to do because it's the way it works. I have a business too, but for 40 years it's been great, and all of a sudden it's a safety issue. I don't quite understand. That's all. Maybe though they pick I'll pay the cost out to have it done.
Jared, do you have any comments on that, or?
I do not have comments. When this officially came to us, they were requesting for a complete parking ban, 24 hours. We sent out the letters, and I'm sorry, for the record, I'll need your name.
Rick Alden.
Which we sent out the letters. And most of this actually impacts a lot of the Orange residents across the street on Hillside and Lakeside. I believe we have 3 homes that front Sycamore, a couple on Taft. We heard from one of the residents on Sycamore because now parking is going to be pushed from in front of the Toronto Water District down south, essentially.
Well, it's right across the street. You can park right across the street.
For you,
Nobody
yes.
park.
Well, on the east side, if I may finish, Joe.
It's 3. Oh, sorry.
The Villa Park resident was concerned about parking now in front of his house. Parking is allowed. The east side of the street is City Orange. The west side of the street is Villa Park. Orange, their street sweeping day, and this is the one concern that I did hear, their street sweeping day is Monday. They park across the street, so nobody's ticketed. That's the one thing that I did hear, and I believe Akram approached the Toronto Water District, and they were open to no parking from midnight to 6 a.m. They cited security reasons. What are the security reasons? I don't know.
Oh, they said no to that?
They said okay
to the Monday, we're okay?
Okay, to yeah, midnight to 6 a.m. And I didn't. I apologize. I didn't send out another letter, but they were open to midnight. Yeah, no parking from midnight to 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine, but I was kind of curious. If it's a business thing, I understand, but otherwise, I don't get it.
Just want to clarify, the parking prohibition is only from midnight to 6 a.m. every day. From midnight
Leave your
to
car
6.
there. My kids park
Okay.
their car there, they can move.
Just want to, yeah.
I'm just curious why, after all this time,
I mean,
it's a problem. That's all. I'm just curious.
When we say
From a layman's standpoint.
security reason is mainly to eliminate any, because there is a major reservoir and a pump station, and it's mainly just to eliminate any potential vandalism or any possible, nothing has happened, and hopefully nothing will happen.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. All right, so we need to adopt this resolution, so I guess I need a motion. And
I have to tell you, I pulled it as well because I had another resident, it was Jim Warden, I think,
yeah.
who expressed concern about it. And I pulled it. I figured he'd probably be here, and I was going to let him have his,
Well,
day.
he actually, this modification, and I did want to thank you, Jared, it satisfied him.
Yeah.
This has been modified from how it was originally presented.
Okay,
and I think those residents didn't know. And if I could just say, I believe that it has to do with Homeland Security issues and the fact that there really is, the city's emergency water supply is there, and it has to do with line of sight for patrol. I know that, for 40 years, but you know what? 20 years ago, 10 years ago, we didn't have the same issues that we have now. Pardon me? Was it? Did they play tennis on top of the water supply? Yeah, they can't do that anymore. Things change, unfortunately, and water is a precious commodity.
Yeah.
I think you'll be fine. 6 a.m., you can go move your car out there.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
All right, so we need a motion, Jared, on this one?
Yes.
Okay.
Second and roll call with it being a resolution.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move to.
We move it. And I'll second, but before I second it, do we change this to make sure that they're going to pay for this?
Yes.
Okay. All right, wonderful. I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Jared?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Barnett?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasenelli? Councilwoman Pauly?
Yes?
Councilman Mills?
Yes.
Mayor Reese?
Yes, thank you. Item 11 was pulled by,
No, 10. You missed 10.
oh, I'm sorry.
That was,
We were
Oh,
on
that's 10. I'm
10.
sorry.
Yeah, we were on 10.
Oh, sorry.
Item 11 was pulled by Mayor Pro Tem Barnett.
Yeah, I pulled this. You know what? I pulled this, and then following my own request, suggestions coming up later, I actually discussed it with. I discussed this with Jared, and frankly, I really shouldn't have pulled it.
Okay.
I already resolved
You want
this.
to
and-
unpull it?
Yeah, I had this. Yeah,
Is that a motion?
I'm moving to pass. I'm moving this. That was my error.
We still have to vote on it.
All right, so
That's fine.
we've unpulled it and we've made a motion on it. I will second it.
is there any further, I thought I saw your hand up. Any further discussion? No? Okay.
The contract, so.
Yeah, this is a contract, so this will be a roll call vote. For the benefit of the public, this is the awarded contract for the catch basin debris screen installation project. We received $97,000 from OCTA to install catch basins now into our storm drains. Mayor Pro Tem Barnett.
Yes.
Mayor Reese.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasenelli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pauly.
Yes.
Councilman Mills.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's see. Item 12 was pulled by Councilwoman Pauly.
Item 12 is the resolution appointing the city's designated representatives to the Orange County Fire Authority. That is Mayor Pro Tem Rick Barnett and Mayor Brad Reese. We've never had to do this before. Pass a resolution. Why is this happening?
OCFA requires it now.
I think we had to do it last year.
We had to do it last year,
Yeah,
too.
We did do it last year?
Because we didn't do
Okay.
it, and they said they wouldn't.
Well,
You're unpulling it?
no, I'm not unpulling it. I actually will not.
Last year.
Pardon?
We did it last year.
Yeah, and based on the action tonight, which really kind of flies in the face of what the fire authority would approve with regard to safe and sane fireworks, I can't approve these two as being our representatives to the fire authority board, and I'll be voting no.
All righty. So is that a motion?
No.
A no motion?
Somebody else is going to make a motion, I'm sure.
All right.
I'll make it.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Jared?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion, okay, for the record, is to adopt resolution 2013-3221, appointing Mayor Pro Tem Barnett as director, and resolution 2013-3222, appointing Mayor Brad Reese as alternate to the Orange County Fire Authority. Councilwoman Basin.
Yes.
Councilman Mills.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pauly.
Nope.
Mayor Pro Tem Barnett.
Can I defer until, on my own vote, until I see how this plays out? Is it appropriate for me to vote on my own position?
Because of the change in the law, you can. So just under the new law, the amount of the stipend is going to be put on the city's website pursuant to a new form that the FPPC created. So yes, you can vote.
All right,
Yes. Thank you. All right. At this time, we will consider the results. This is under old business, by the way, item 14. We'll consider the results of the request for proposal to prepare a comprehensive citywide fees and charges rate study. Jared, do you have a report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the meeting last month, the council authorized the issuance of RFP for a full cost allocation plan and comprehensive fee and rate study. The study will calculate the full 100% cost of providing city services, as well as a proposed fee to recover such costs in case we are subsidizing or not receiving the full cost in some areas. Upon completion of this study, we will bring back a new fee resolution that kind of cleans everything up. Right now, our fees are scattered all over the place. There's a separate binder for Bill Heron, our deputy building official, at the counter, and we have a master fee resolution as well. I distributed the RFP to a number of consultants specializing in such user studies. Fees or proposals were due on February 6th, and I received 3. One from BPR Concepts in the amount of $8,200, and the other 2 were in the amount of $18,900 and one in the amount of $19,000. The RFP anticipates that the final study and implementing resolution will be presented to council at the April 23rd council meeting. Fees take effect 30 days after, so this would be in line with our July 1st, the start of the new fiscal year. My reasoning for going out to a consultant for this is, quite frankly, it's the most efficient way to handle it. If staff were to develop new fees or new resolutions, it would take a considerable amount of staff time. A couple hundred hours between my time, Michelle's time, Ryan's time, Bill's time, Akram's time. We spoke with our city auditor, and they said a study of this nature requires very specialized skills. In government, there are very involved rules regarding which costs can and cannot be allocated and how they can be allocated. I do not know those rules. Michelle doesn't know those rules. Akram, Jennifer, Ryan, nobody knows those rules, which is why it's going to take us much longer to do it than a consultant. The firm selected is BPR Concepts. The consultant doing the work is Miss Annie Saldana. She's actually in attendance with us here tonight. She has conducted many of these, well over 100, knows those rules, knows those regulations, and already has the charts in Excel spreadsheet for us. It will take her, in her proposal, I believe, 82 hours, which is that cost of $8,200. I'm available for any questions, and I believe Annie is as well, in case anybody has anything.
Mayor Pro Tem Barnett.
I briefly discussed this with Jared. I still have some issues with it, but I briefly discussed it with Jared. And one of the things you pointed out to me, Jared, was that I think that they would actually set you up with some software whereby you could subsequently make adjustments and update these numbers periodically hereafter, such that we wouldn't have to be looking at it perhaps as much as we would otherwise and require outside service. If that's the case, maybe you could just kind of give everybody a quick synopsis of that, because I thought it was significant.
Yes, that is correct. I'll actually ask Annie to go over that a little bit. We will receive the software where we can implement our fully loaded rates. So in the future, Michelle or myself or whoever's in the position can establish those new rates, and it would automatically formulate and come up with the new numbers.
And that's exactly right. My name is Annie Saldana. I'm with BPR Concepts. What it is, it's basically built in Excel. And so once we're done, the most difficult part is at the beginning. As Jared said, right now the fee structure is all over the place. So, you know, I've done over 100 of these in various different parts of the country, and I can really help the city set up a really good fee structure based on what I've seen that works in, you know, every other place I've worked at. And at the end, they will be able to keep that Excel model and be able to alter and make changes in future years. So by then, the fee structure will already be established, and updating on a year-to-year basis is really easy. Something that they can definitely do. And there's a day of training that I will do to teach them how to use it, and there's a one-page manual as well. So
Is that included in your fees as well, the day of training?
That's all included.
Okay.
Also included is a benchmarking study with 5 peer cities or counties of their choice, so that you can see how the fees here compare to everywhere else. So,
How much staff time will you require?
it depends on you know, obviously how many revisions are involved, but typically about 35 to 40 hours of staff time. And that would be for interviews on site at the beginning to get all the information necessary, and also to review drafts afterwards.
Is there any software licensing that will incur after the first year?
Nope.
Okay. So it's basically an Excel spreadsheet.
It's a cost model that's built in Excel.
Okay.
And so that's nice, because then, you know, anybody can use it.
So after this study is done and we have the Excel spreadsheet, how many years down the road would you say can we self-do it, kind of, without having to rehire you again? You know what I mean?
That's a really good question. Usually we recommend doing a completely new fee structure when there's been a significant change in the way that things are done, or when you want to significantly alter the fee schedule for various reasons. Other than that, on an annual basis, you can increase it if you wish, based on the increased cost of doing business. And that's easily done by staff. But every 5 to 6 years, usually it's recommended that you do an entire new fee study. And I want to add to that the cost of this study, the $8,200, is actually recoverable through fees.
Yeah.
So within, you know, 3 to 4 years, you know, you're going to be able to recover that amount.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine some of our fees could be high and some of the fees could be low. So it you know, we don't know where that's going to fall out. What part of the problem our staff has is they don't really feel authorized or equipped with how to do this process, really, to figure out what the right fees are. What's going to make them equipped a year or two from now to feel authorized and feel empowered that they can make a change? Do you see my question on that?
I definitely do. I think at this point I get the feeling that they don't have the tools or experience necessary to really put this together. I actually worked with the city of Chicago, and they tried developing their own model. They had one person spend a year developing this cost model, and then they still called us in to review it and make sure that they had everything in place. And so I definitely think that because you're right now trying to establish your fee structure, make sure everything's in place, the first time, like I said, is always the hardest.
Yeah.
And then once that's done, you know, obviously with discussions that we'll be having on an ongoing basis, they'll be able to understand, you know, how to move forward after that.
Yeah. So you feel they would be comfortable the next 2-3 years in figuring that on their own with the tools and training you'll
Definitely.
provide them?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes. What kind of cities do you anticipate are comparable to Villa Park that we've heard of?
That's
A lot of people
always
haven't
the
heard of
tough
Villa
part.
Park, unless it's Illinois, right?
Yeah.
No, definitely not Chicago.
Hey, yeah.
You know, comparable is always difficult. I'll let, you know, the city choose those comparables. It helps to know sometimes how things are being charged elsewhere and how they're charging it, just so you get an idea of, you know, your neighboring jurisdictions.
Do you anticipate this being an explosion of new fees that we haven't been charging over the past 50 years?
No, not necessarily. No, it's. I always think that it's useful to know, and you can make a policy decision later on, you know, whether you want to charge full cost, whether you want to charge 50%, but it's useful to know what are the services that are being provided, how much are they costing the city, how much do we want to subsidize, you know, even for budgeting and
Yeah.
forecasting purposes. I think it's very useful information.
Yeah.
Okay. I think
Any
that's-
other questions?
I have to say that prior to reading the proposal, when all I saw was a dollar amount, I can just tell you, in my mind, I said, no way, we're not going to do this. And then when I actually pulled how much we charge in fees, I started to question. For example, the $600 for a CUP, and I see how much work goes into our staff. And if I just extrapolate the dollar amount hourly, I look at the $600 and right off the bat, I can tell you that it's not enough. It's not enough. It is just taking too many hours for us to issue one CUP. Now, that may not be the same for the other permits, but that alone, now that I've looked at it and read it, and I see the reasoning behind it.
So what's the usual adoption process then? Ms. Aldana will do the study, comes back, and then what?
Council, and then at that point, we will have the list of proposed fees, and it will show you either how much you're overfunding or underfunding. And then at that point, it's up to the city council.
So there'll be a comparison of what we're doing now versus new. Okay. Because I'm with Deanna that I was skeptical. We had residents that were volunteering to do this sort of study, and because they were going to go online basically and charge and search other cities nearby. Yeah. So, but we understand that the good thing is we'll have somebody else to blame at the end, right? I'm kidding.
So, Jared, my understanding on our fees is by law we're not allowed to make money on our fees. We just want cost reimbursement, but we are allowed to subsidize if we choose so. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
For fees for services,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Well, I got to say, I was pretty limp on it myself, and I think I've had a bit of a change of heart on it. I feel the same way as my colleagues mentioned up here also.
I shared Brad's concern. However, the more I thought about it, if we can't charge more, I don't know where we're at now, and we're going through the same thing at OCFA on Thursday. And I looked at their rate changes, and some of them are drastic, 50, 45% increases to developers and stuff. But I looked at the overall budget projection, and it shows a $913,000 annual deficit on the new fees. So despite those huge increases, they expect to take almost $1 million less revenue in. So it seems to me we ought to know where we're at and have an opportunity to look at it. It's not a huge sum.
Yeah. All right, Councilmember Pauly.
Hi. I will say that this was a very impressive proposal when I read it. Very complete, specific, well-designed, decipherable, so I did appreciate that. In your experience, since we're certainly not Chicago, nowhere near it.
I've worked with a lot of smaller cities as well.
As small as ours?
Not as small as Villa Park.
Okay. Well, okay, but that doesn't matter. You know, in your experience, are municipalities generally charging much less or too much? What is it? What are you usually seeing?
Usually when a study hasn't been done in a long time, they're charging less. And that's because they update fees arbitrarily or based on what everybody else is doing. But he was right where he said that, you know, it's not going to be across the board you're charging less on all of them. Some of them are going to be higher, some of them are going to be lower. And I think that's the problem, that right now you're probably overcharging in some and undercharging in others. But generally speaking, when it's a first-time fee study that I'm doing, across the board it's undercharging.
Most of the time is undercharging. Yeah, I was looking at some of the things that you're going to look at. Direct labor, of course, proportion of operating expenses, overhead, capital. So then you would roll in how much does it cost to have the lights on during the day? Those kinds of things.
There's a portion of that cost.
And so I see that, and I see this about benchmarking. That's going to be a tough one because there are very few cities that are like Villa Park. So I'm concerned about that.
That's just to clarify. That's for information purposes only. That does not tie in at all with what the cost of your services are. It's just to give you a benchmark, an idea of what's being charged elsewhere, but that has nothing to do with the cost analysis.
Right.
It's for information.
But you will be recommending that municipalities charge the full cost of services provided, and that has to do with even payout for vacation. I was surprised at the number of things that you would actually be looking at, those kinds of things. The other thing that I thought was interesting, and it's not included in this, is process improvement. You've done in other studies. I was looking at some of the other things you've done. If you run across things that you thought would be potential cost savers, is that going to be something that you will point out or bring to the attention of staff as you're doing this?
Definitely. Actually, fee studies are really, really useful for that purpose because the way in which this works is that we go through every single service and we ask staff, tell me about the process. What is entailed with this service? Who's working on it? How much time are they spending on it? You know, does it go from point A to point B? In you know, how does it move? And so that really pinpoints sometimes, you know, where sometimes there are some inefficiencies in the process. And also when you look at the total time that's spent on a service, if it seems too high, that's also an indicator that maybe there's room for improvement there.
Right.
So, you know, and also I've, like I said, done this in many other places, so I can know, you know, what the best practices are and what I've seen that has worked in other places that I could, you know, I'd be happy to share with staff.
I would certainly like to see that. I got to tell you, I voted against even going out on the RFP on this, but after seeing the quality of what I think you're probably going to bring to it, if your report to us is anything like what your proposal is, it's going to be useful. But as we're doing this, what I would really like to see us, because we're sort of putting the cart before the horse in some ways, we're talking about we're going to get this report and then we're going to develop the policy, how we're going to make our policy decision, whether it's going to be 100% cost recovery or where subsidy. I would like to see staff working on that now. It really is a significant and important policy decision. I'm positive that our citizens are already paying more than enough money in taxes, and then we have to have a balance. Yes?
I just want to add something to that.
Okay.
In your decision, since you already want to start talking about policy,
yes,
there have been some places that instead of going to full cost right away on all of the fees, they do a tiered increase. So if it turns out that right now you're under recovering by 50%, and you don't want to go from 50% to 100% in 1 year, you can do it incrementally. So the next year it would be up to 65, then 75, then 100 or something like that. So that's something that has definitely been done in other places.
But I do feel we need the data first. Then you know, in my opinion, the cart's not before the horse in this case. I think we need the data. Then we scrub the data and figure out what we're going to do.
I still do think we need to start thinking policy-wise. We need to start thinking as a council policy-wise. You know, do we want to be sure that we're encouraging our residents, similar to what we did with the sign ordinance with the Towne Centre, where we rebated it back because we wanted to see action taken. Do we want to see our residents continue making improvements to their property? We absolutely do. So I think we need to start thinking about where do we want it? Where do we not? I hope you find areas where we're charging too much and we can reduce that. Wouldn't that be something? So, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you
so much.
My pleasure.
Do we have anyone else in the public that would like to speak on this matter? Seeing none, is there any final council member discussion? I'll take a motion. Anyone want to make a motion on this? If not, I'll make it.
I'll make it. I'll move that we issue the contract.
All right, I'll second that motion. Jared, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Barnett?
Yes.
Mayor Reese?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasenelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pauly?
I've changed my mind. Yes.
I think
Councilman
a lot of
Mills?
us have. No. All right. Item 15 is under old business as well. We need to receive an update and take action regarding the Loma Street right-of-way trail acquisition. Jared, do you have a report, please?
Yeah, I'll talk about that if I may, Mayor. So last August, after we had completed the Loma Street trail improvements, we realized that we did not own property rights to two properties, the Lanfranco residence and the Farnham residence. At that point in time, the city engineer approached the property owners and they came to a meeting of the minds as to reimbursement to them for the taking of that property. When we started going through the process as to how to legally effectuate that decision, we first realized we needed some title reports to make sure we knew what the property interests were out there. And then, so that took a while. And then once we got those, we realized because there were certain mortgages on the property that we had to approach the lenders in order to get their consent. It's to get something called a subordination agreement, because if we were to get an easement or take it in fee and then for some unknown reason there was a foreclosure or something, that could wipe out our property interest. So I got stuck in the morass of trying to figure out how to do that and was totally unsuccessful. So I've had to rely on some other people in my office who have contacts with people who are in the property acquisition business to do that, specifically Overland Resources. And they're in the middle of that process right now to try and finalize that. But I wanted to give you a status update because it's taken so long. And I thought we could move the process forward by taking care of the legal requirements so that once we get that done, it'll all be done. So what you have in front of you is, one thing is a resolution under Government Code 65402. Whenever a city acquires or disposes of any real property interest, you have to make a finding that it's consistent with your general plan. And this situation is with the trail, so that should be an easily approved resolution. The second one is just the authorization to acquire the property interests at issue, and then the eventual signature on a certificate of acceptance. Whenever a city accepts property or takes ownership to property, there's an additional legal requirement where you have to have the certificate of acceptance signed and recorded, and so this would authorize that. And then the third issue is the land Francos brought to my attention via a letter about 3 weeks ago that, hey, well, there's this trail out there, and if somebody falls or gets hurt, we could be found liable because it's still technically our property. I'm like, that's a very good point. So I put together these license agreements which would take the city, because rightfully it should be, with the responsibility if anything happens out there until we finalize the property transfers, in which point in time then we would have the legal responsibility as well. So I put those together to offer to the property owners if it's acceptable to the city. Now, one thing that is incorrect, because I just found out the dollar amount today that actually we have the fiscal impact situation statement in the staff report. In order to get the help of this property acquisition company, it's most likely going to be about $3,000, $3,000 to $4,000, because they have to spend some time working with the banks to get all the final documents. Apparently, banks have become more difficult in dealing with these type of situations over the past couple of years. Sometimes they want both before property acquisition and after property acquisition appraisals to show if there's any differential for which the banks may try to get reimbursement, even though they're likely not entitled to it. So that cost could actually go up to $7,000 to finalize that. Just sort of something we need to do to get this done, which I found out sadly. So in that fiscal impact, I actually need to change that and increase it, just to use a round number, to $40,000 because it may cost up to that to get this done. So that is my report. Hopefully we can get this done in fairly short order. And I'm available for questions. I don't know if Akram, if you had any other thoughts or comments. Yeah.
I'd like to ask why this wasn't done before the trail was built.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We screwed up.
No.
The collective we. So no one individual takes responsibility. No. It should. There was some confusion in the property ownership records, and who should have done that at the time.
And maybe survey records, et cetera.
Right.
Okay.
Even though the project was budgeted, one of the things to look at was any property acquisition. So even if we had found it at that point in time, we would have had this cost. So it's not really, it costs us anymore. But yes, ideally you get consent to take someone's property before you do it. So, right.
Or,
no, that wasn't.
Or improve it.
Or improve it. That's right. In this case,
if it's really an improvement for them, but
right.
Okay, thanks.
That's
yeah, that happens.
All right. Is there anyone here in the public who would like to speak to this matter? Seeing none, is there any final council member questions for staff?
What happens? I'm sorry. What happens if we don't go through with this? Just tell me.
Well, somebody could put big block wall on the trail, and the continuity of the trail would be, well, not a block wall probably, because they'd need a permit. We wouldn't give them a permit.
Yeah.
But they could take over the ownership again and prohibit access to their property because technically they own that title and fee. one of the interesting issues actually is that Akram and I were talking about before the meeting. Most of that roadway the city owns in fee title, so we have actual ownership. Usually in a lot of roadways, people only own easements, and you actually, the road in front of your street, you own to the middle of the street technically, and then there's just a right-of-way easement. This portion of the trail, sort of going back to your question, Councilman Mill, is different historically, and we're not really sure why. We only actually have easements over the portion of the street. So when we finally take property ownership, whether we take it in fee or in easement, it doesn't really matter for us because we'll still have access rights, and that's one of the things we're going to have to talk to with the banks. But there is a unique historical anomaly here, which I think led to some of the issues we've had about who owned it.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Okay,
have a
but-
motion on this item?
excuse me, Brad.
Yeah.
Are there any other areas that we need to be aware of that may have this anomaly? I mean, Villa Park's full of anomalies, I know, so because of the way it's all divvied up.
We have no plans prospectively to build anything which requires the use of any properties, but you are correct that, as compared to Irvine, which everything is detailed and, track maps and specific, the patchwork nature of Villa Park's historical development, which many would argue leads to its charm, leads to a confused legal ownership title history, which often leads to more difficulties.
Yes, I just know there's several things where there's been migration of fence lines, for instance, over the years.
Right.
For whatever reason, so.
Right.
Anyway.
So.
Because we don't have a geophysical satellite image of the whole thing like Irvine does, I know.
Yeah, well, some cities do that GPS, and they crack, in Yorba Linda, we crack down on that type of stuff because they go into our landscape easements.
Thank you.
Well, I just have to say this. I opposed the entire project from the beginning, but I think that this is a fine example of the mess that we find ourselves in when we go rushing through to push something through, jumping on grant dollars without taking a step back and making sure that the process and procedure is in place. I just think the rush sometimes to get things done before they're completely thought through gets us in trouble. I'm going to oppose this, mostly because I've been opposing everything that's had anything to do with the trail project, even though I understand that legally we have to do it, or they could rip the fence down if they chose to do so. Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion on this?
I'll move to.
Second.
So the motions will be for the two rezos and the
resolutions.
license agreements if the property owners want them.
And the license.
Yes.
And the budget amendment as amended by me up to 40.
Got it. 3 items.
Yes, 4.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Barnett.
Yes.
Councilman Mills.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fasenelli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pauly.
No.
Mayor Reese.
Yes. Thank you. All right, item 16 under new business. At this time, we'll consider the replacement of the monument sign at Wanda Road and Villa Park Road. Jared, do you have a report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item, as you mentioned, is the replacement of the monument sign at Villa Park Road and Wanda Road. Mid last year, the City Council signed a sign services agreement with Bravo, as well as approved a master plan of design concepts for such sign replacements. The first sign location, Lemon Street and Villa Park Road, has been completed. Next up is this location, Wanda and Villa Park Road. The city staff met with the Community Development Committee to review options and go over proposed design options, I guess. We discussed the use of an electronic monument sign in such location. Average daily traffic count in this location is 20,000 vehicles, give or take. So it makes sense. It's one of our most high trafficked areas. Unfortunately, it does not make sense to install the sign economically, so the committee decided. This is due to the fact that we do not have power in the location. We'd have to trench about 350 feet in order to get power to run the electronic monument sign. That location is controlled. The intersection is actually controlled by the City of Orange. They would not allow us to tap into their system, unlike The first sign, when we needed power for the lighting down on Villa Park Road and Wanda, we were just able to pull it through our existing conduit. We cannot do that in this case. The second concern was communication with the electronic sign. Given the distance, 2,000 plus feet, we are not able to communicate with it wirelessly. Their infrastructure is not in place to communicate with it over the internet via an IP. That means Time Warner and AT&T don't offer service at that intersection. So staff, myself, Ryan, or one of our interns would have to go out there daily, weekly, monthly, whatever policy we develop, to update that electronic sign that says happy birthday, happy 29th birthday, Jared, or whatever we want it to say.
That was a bad example.
That's a bad example.
It's a girl. It's a girl.
Yeah.
It's a girl.
Do you know what it is yet?
It's a girl.
Is it really? Oh.
It's a girl. May 13th, Mother's Day weekend. So.
Oh, how cool.
At least hopefully it's after, so I get my first Father's Day. Anyways, the sign construction, the intersections differ greatly. This location does not have a pre-existing block wall, so we have to construct one. The cost of that sign went up. The cost to construct it is $18,000, and what the contractor is recommending is solar lighting. Solar lighting, in this case, there would be a floodlight in the ground that shines up, so it would not be the LED light strip that's on the sign at Villa Park Road and Lemon. This one will give it kind of the more amber light as opposed to that bright white light that's out there. That cost is $28,750, bringing the total cost of the sign to $20,875. I'm throwing in there another $2,125 for miscellaneous and contingency fees. We're going to preserve the landscaping as much as possible in this location. A couple years ago, the Girl Scouts, or local Girl Scout troop, went in there and planted it, and it has blossomed into what it is today. It looks fantastic. They also have a marker in the ground, which we'd relocate 3 or 4 feet in front. The sign would be installed right in front of those silver sheens, so they would continue to grow and kind of offer a nice background for it. Total cost of this project being $23,000. The City Council has budgeted a total. It was an initial total of $80,000 over 4 fiscal year period, beginning 11-12 through 14-15. The foundation, as part of their 50th anniversary gift to the city, originally donated $14,800 for the cost of the construction at Villa Park Road and Lemon. They've loved that sign so much, they came back and gave us another $15,000, meaning the city would have to fund $8,000, roughly $8,000 for the cost of the sign. With that, the design concept is in the staff report. It's going to mirror that sign on Villa Park Road and Lemon. In the staff report, it shows a planter box with the sign. That would actually not be constructed because it's going to be built in a planter.
Good. That's my
So we're just getting rid of that feature.
Good.
Available for any questions if you have it.
I have a question on the estimate. Where it excluded, let's see, right down the middle, that's the third box, traffic control, survey, landscape removal, so on. That's excluded from the cost. Is that what you added another $2,100 for?
It is, yes.
Anti-graffiti sealer? Kind of important. There are things, that wall is sitting there right in the middle of the traffic, and we do see graffiti every once in a while, so I want to make sure that, that's included in the cost.
That we do. I can have them add that in. To tell you the truth, I'm not sure what that cost
Yeah, it's probably
would be.
something that hasn't been thought of, but being right there in the open, and you do have a lot of pedestrian traffic that goes there.
Any other comments?
Question. How are you going to handle the landscape removal?
We'll have Mike and Rich head out there when they're proposing to construct it. They'll lay it out, chalk it, and then find out which plants stay and which plants go. Some I'm sure we'll have to sacrifice, unfortunately, but we'll use the others in and around town.
But you would probably build it far enough away from the silver sheen to
Yes.
allow for some growth, so they shouldn't be disturbed in any fashion.
They shouldn't be disturbed.
Okay, very good. And then, have you written to the Girl Scouts yet, the Girl Scout troop, and letting them know what's happening before you start?
We have not, but I will.
To let them know.
Before we start.
Yeah, that their landscaping is being preserved. Maybe even send them a picture of how pretty it's going to be. You did such a great job. We want to highlight it in some way. And that your marker will be put back in the ground so that we don't have a bunch of 8-year-old girls crying and then we feel really bad. Okay. And just to be clear, the lighting, is it a single light that's going to be shining on this?
It is a single floodlight.
A single floodlight with an amber tint to it, something more low-key?
Yeah, the LED, I'm trying to look for an example.
We have one in here.
It's a bright white light.
Right.
As you can see the difference in that intersection.
Yeah.
The signal lights are that amber
Yes.
CFL
More-
glow, where it kind of, it looks great, but it kind of contradicts each other. So this would have the lighting as similar to what's in this room here, shining up
Bright.
rather than right underneath attached to the sign.
Yes.
This will kind of come at a 45-degree angle.
Okay. I'm just wondering if one is going to be adequate. I really am wondering if one is going to be adequate, or it would be better to have two. I'm serious about that. I'm wondering that might be a concern. You're just going to have one light shining. I like the idea of it being amber and more low-key than that bright white, really shocking LED, because it goes better with the colors that are being done here. I think we should ask that question, whether it should be two. Just basic lighting technique tells you that it should come this direction, that you should have two. So I would ask that question and wonder if that could be rolled into contingency. And then
It certainly can be. This lighting recommendation came at the contractor's specs, and he's built numerous.
Okay,
signs
well, if
throughout
he
the
says
community.
it will.
Says it'll work.
Okay, and then the last thing is plans that you have for taking down the sign, the sign that's already on the wall. Is that something that Mike and Rich can just go take down?
Yeah, it's just nuts and bolts.
Okay.
Mike and Rich will go out there, we'll remove them, and I'm imagining there's not a whole lot of patchwork in cinder block. Probably just leave them and let that ivy that's on the wall.
Finally grow over it,
Yeah.
as it should be anyway. Good.
I have a question about the lighting and its appearance. I think the sign at Lemon and Villa Park Road is outstanding. And I think I've heard a lot of good comments about it. And I don't think there's any complaints from anyone, but that lighting will be much different than this. A lot different. And I think the look of that is very classy. And I think we have a classy city here. And I would like to consider running electricity to that area and see what the cost differential is with this contractor. I don't know what it is, but a solar system like that is not cheap either.
Greg,
Yes.
I might be able to help in that.
Okay.
The white there, it's so light, and it was a little shocking when I first saw it, but frankly, I kind of like it. Most of the people that have been seeing it, it's growing on them, do like it too. It's because it's those white LEDs, and frankly, if that's what we wanted to do, I don't see any reason we couldn't put a bright white LED spot there. They just aggregate a bunch of those LEDs, and it's much more power efficient. So, I don't know if that would be a problem if that's what was wanted.
I'm sure it's a simple lighting fixture. I mean, in the report it shows it's an LED light, so we'll just select the bulb that matches.
You get different colors and heats on those lights. My guess is they could come up with something that balances it out that probably looks decent.
Well, but in like turn, I don't think that the solar power one will look the same at all as the one on 120. So they're like 12 volts on the solar, typically, unless I'm wrong.
I think the LEDs run on the lower voltage, though, don't they, Brad?
Yeah, all of them do.
Yeah,
All the LEDs do.
Yeah, I don't think the LEDs take the high voltage. They just have to step it all the way down.
I'm not sure what we have at Villa Park at Lemon. We should look at that. There should be a comparison.
I think that's low voltage.
Well,
For the voltage, excuse me,
at Lemon, you have an LED bar with a bright white type light. It utilizes 110 electricity to power it. Whether they power it down to 12 volt with a little converter or
Step down,
something,
yeah, I don't know.
irregardless.
there's transformers
This,
in place. I think it's a
yeah.
24 volt.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, is it 24?
This one here, they're talking about an 85-watt solar power system because it has to charge a battery during the daytime, so at night it can operate that 15-watt light throughout the entire night. I can't imagine that LED bar pulls. It probably does pull more than 15 watts, that LED bar. So if it pulled 100, or I should say, if it pulled 30 watts, you'd need more solar, you know.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it
Yeah.
pulled that. That was,
So we just have to ask them more on this, Jared.
Yeah.
As Councilwoman Fasanelli brought up the anti-graffiti sealer, I think that's a great idea, because I think that's probably more vulnerable than the one down on Lemon, even though we all had that concern a little bit too. Thankfully, that hasn't happened yet, because it would be ugly if the graffiti got on this type of architecture, because there's so many different colors in it. It's not like you can go out there with tan paint, you know. It depends where they do it, but if they do it on the rocks or bricks, you're in big trouble. So I think that's important, so maybe we could just bring up the lighting as well. I've heard favorable comments on the color of lighting down at Lemon myself. It is kind of a bright white, but it grows on you, in my opinion.
yeah, I had the same experience, and I've heard the same thing.
We can certainly add it. If I remember, that lighting track bar was around the $1,800 mark, and then it was another $22 just to run the electrical. We can budget maybe $2,000. Let's call it $2,000 for an LED light, so we can get construction started. From what I understand, you want it built soon, and then add another, let's call it $1,000 a day to trench, because our closest electric meter is about 350 feet away. We would need to trench from that meter box all the way out to the sign. Call it $1,000 a day to rent a trencher. Have Mike come in on a Saturday, trench the location, throw in maybe a couple $100 for repair for whatever sprinkler lines he might go through. Another $1,000 for an electrician to come and pull the conduit, and then another day to patch up the trench work. So throw in another $3,000, add it to the $2,000. We're looking at maybe $26,000 for the total cost of the sign.
Question. So you're talking about putting lighting all the way across the same way as
The LED light strip.
Okay, but at the other place, we have this flower box, so there's a
Yes.
natural place to stick it. Where is this going to be?
The
Down
LED
here?
light strip?
Yeah.
It's actually tacked to the sign on the bottom ledge.
So it's not on the front, that's not where it is.
It's mounted to the
down
sign
in here
itself,
and
right
it's
on the
kind of
tile.
hidden.
Yeah, it is.
No, actually, Deborah, it's right on the face of the marble.
Very bottom.
Right, see, at the bottom of
This
the
shines
This,
up.
this back part, yeah.
It's right on there. What they did is,
Right there.
what they did is they put a little.
Yes, but is it attached to this
No.
flower box portion?
No, what
No.
they did is they stuck it basically right on the sign, but there's a little piece of masonry lip like this, so that it hides behind it, so you're not looking at the bulbs.
You don't look at the bulbs at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something they could do again.
Yeah.
I don't know that they need to.
don't like
They might be able to put a light
Yeah.
with bright.
Because it would be a replacement for the solar system. This would
Mike?
replace.
It would be a replacement.
And the other thing is to have a electrical outlet or two for
Yes.
the local organizations like the Women's League or Rotary or Girl Scout troop. Be able to plug something in there once in a while. Maybe they want to decorate it for a holiday. Things like that. I just
Correct.
trying to think ahead while we're doing it. Let's
Or-
do it nicely. And I agree with Deborah. We shouldn't rush this if it takes another month.
I think we should. I think it looks to me like we've got a lot of questions about lighting. I think we
Sure.
should bring it back another month instead of rushing, and be sure what we're doing and what can be done and what the cost is going to be instead of winging it. We think it's going to be this. We think it's going to be that.
Well, I think you all just did such a great job. I know Rich was really involved with the one on Lemon, and it was it's
Sounds
outstanding.
beautiful.
Rich is killing himself out here to get to the podium.
Oh,
Okay.
Well, I think the end result is let's find out how much it is to run electricity there, and that's a big cost to make sure that we have electricity. But for the future, you never know where this city may go. There may be a time you want to install cameras coming in and out of the city. If you don't have electricity there, you can't. I'm not saying that's an option, but look ahead into
It'd be nice to know the real
past
cost
us.
to do it.
Past our tenure, you never know what happens.
All right, I think we've had some good discussion, and it seems like there are some items that we'd like to know. I'm going to open it up for the public to come up. I know there's one person that wants to come up and speak, and then the council members can speak again after that.
Thank you, Brad. Rich Ulmer, 18550 Martinique Court. Some of what I have to say doesn't appear to be relevant to this discussion, but I want to congratulate you on the discussion. For one of the rare times in my 8 years of council life, I agree with absolutely every word that was spoken up here. Not with much that was spoken down there, unfortunately, and I love Jared.
at the end of the day, I want to start with a website report, OC underwater rates, from Sunday's paper. I said not obvious to you how it connects right now, but Villa Park was noted for a 9% underwater property rate, third lowest in the county. Newport and Laguna were 6 and 7 respectively. Highest in the county was Ladera Ranch at 33. What you're doing tonight, in my opinion, with that intersection has a great deal to do with why we don't have underwater properties in Villa Park. One of the things that I always prided myself on with regard to Villa Park council participation was keeping in mind what was really important to the folks who live in Villa Park, the pride of ownership in this city. It was the Beverly Hills of Orange County. It was something that was beautiful from A to Z, as often as we could afford it. And in my opinion, what you're looking at is the single best opportunity we have to make an entrance in this city something special. And you're not going to have that opportunity twice, especially if you put something of lower quality in first. And so for me, I love Jared, and I said that already, but I'll say it twice because what I'm about to say now says Jared's concerned about $1,200 on this sign. You shouldn't be concerned with that, in my opinion. You should take the rest of the $80,000 that we budgeted last council meeting and spend it on this sign at Villa Park Road and Wanda. This is the flagship sign, if you will, for this city. It has, what, half a dozen entrances if you stretch things a little bit? The others will get done in time. This foundation has stepped up twice at the request of council, representative on that foundation, not on the board then, but on now. And at the end of the day, we are going to get more money for this city to look the best it can possibly look at every single entrance. But that day is down the road a little bit. But this one is key. This one is key. I have in my hot little hands here a real estate agent in Villa Park who uses a crummy-looking entrance sign to Villa Park as part of her appeal to get people to buy property in this city. Come on, people. Get this one done right. Greg, I love you. New and speaking right up. Get the electricity to that place. If Orange is too uncollaborative, uncooperative, and mean-spirited not to share their doggone electricity with us, then spend the $1,000 a day trenching it. Bring Mike in on a Saturday. He's retiring soon. He needs the money for retirement. So, it's just one of those times in our lives here where we have a chance to do something really special. And you have that opportunity in front of you. And I don't want this to come down to a 3-2 vote. I want it to be 5-zip and this thing to be classy and something that sets our community even farther apart. I didn't say above other communities in Orange County. We know where we stand, and we know what we have here. We're the rural, what can I say, principality of this entire 33 city county, and we want to keep it that way. So we don't want a lot of commercial with a lot of flashy neon signs that are powered by solar or anything else. But at the end of the day, we want this sign at Villa Park Road in Wanda to be the most special sign that any city in this county has, saying, welcome to Villa Park. And I know there are a bunch of people in Villa Park who want to go back to 1965 and don't want anybody to know about it. Don't want a street light, don't want a sidewalk. I don't want those either. But, at the end of the day, we have this opportunity to do this one time. And I would entreat you to do this one really right. And don't be afraid to spend the money, because we will find the money from the foundation. The foundation board has already voted to support these entrance things over the next 3 to 5 years. They're worried. Bill Nelson, God love him, is our treasurer, and he's always saying, are you sure you can find that money? At the end of the day, we're going to find the money to make this city as good as it can be, thanks to every entrance that you fix properly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rich. Anyone else in the audience would like to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council. Any other comments?
I'd just like to make a motion that we
Rick
can.
is
Oh, I'm
speaking
sorry.
first.
Oh,
Go ahead, Rick.
I didn't know. I can't hear him. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
I
know.
can't hear him at all.
We're not used to that, Rick. We can't hear
I can't even hear me.
And I still can't hear you.
Okay, I support Rich's, oh, there we go, it does work. I support Rich's comments. I had a couple of comments from before I kind of didn't get to. First of all, I had a question for Jared. Jared, if you run this power and trench it, is it Mike that's going to trench it and rent a trencher? Is that what you're talking about?
We can hire an outside contractor, or Mike can do it. I'd suggest Mike. He'll likely be a lot cheaper.
I agree with you, because there's no way it's going to be $1,000 a day. I've rented those trenchers, and they're dirt cheap, okay? They're not expensive. So I don't see that being a big deal. In fact, the more that I think about it after listening to Rich and Greg, I think you're going to find it's going to be much cheaper to run that 350-foot trench
I hope
propped
so.
in PVC than it is to buy all this solar stuff, pay the maintenance costs on the solar. You've got the ugly thing sticking up somewhere for the solar, limitations on power, battery replacement, et cetera, et cetera. I think you're going to be much better off to trench it. You're unlimited. You can put a plug there, and we can plug in the Christmas stuff at Christmas time. I think you're going to find it's going to be cheaper to trench it. So that was my power comment. The other comment I have is, I love the sign at Lemon and Catella. The only thing that's missing, and I don't want to mess up the aesthetics of the sign with it, but every time I drive by it, it looks like a housing development, okay? Never do I see the little city emblem that lets you know it's a city. And it struck me one day when I saw something else, and I go, oh gosh, that's a city. And that sign's missing it. Now, if it's going to ruin it aesthetically, I suggest we keep it off. But if there's a tactful way to put a nice Villa Park logo on there somewhere to show it's City Villa Park, I think it would make a lot of sense.
Well, okay, benchmarking off that, I don't think the city seal is a good idea because it's too busy. However, I think it might not be a bad idea to raise the arch and underneath it put City of Villa Park, or even saying welcome to City of Villa Park. I mean, my motion was going to be to kick this thing back for another month, to continue it, kick it back to CDC, and let them sort through all of this that's been said, and let Jared get some solid numbers on some of the things that have been discussed. We're not ready to act on it yet.
Any other comments?
I don't have a problem with that, but
Yeah,
I'd
I
certainly
don't-
like to see it come back quickly
Yeah,
if
it
we
needs
are
to come
going to do
back.
that.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that.
So
Is
can
that a
I
motion?
continue I move that we continue the item till next month, sending this item back to CDC.
Second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second.
Received enough direction. We'll continue it. I'll work in some of the suggestions tonight, bring it back to the CDC, and we'll come back in March for round 2.
Excellent.
No, that would be round 4.
This would probably be like round 8 by now.
Thanks.
That's okay. You take your time and do it right. Do it properly.
All right, moving right along. We're under Mayor and Council Member Matters, item 17. This is an item that we're going to discuss a consent calendar. Mayor Pro Tem Barnett asks that we discuss this. Mayor Pro Tem Barnett.
Not a huge issue, just an informal housekeeping item. I've noted that in the past, and I'm new to the council, but in the past, I've raised issues that I had questions on, and frankly, had I gone to council first, or had I gone to staff first, sometimes I didn't have time, but I think a lot of the stuff that I brought up probably could have been avoided. Other people have brought issues up, but I think, have they done that, probably could have been avoided. So I was just going to suggest, it doesn't have to be any big formal deal, that as a practical procedural matter, that we try and touch base with staff on these consent items before the council meeting, because I think in a lot of cases it's going to alleviate the issue. They're on there because they're supposedly simple routine type items. We have staff here that's being paid. It's cost us several $100 an hour to sit here and deal with some of these. People want to go home. People watch on TV, like to see what's going on. We'll sit here all night. Not a huge item, but I think just as a practical matter, it would be nice if we kind of had a policy to at least try and do that. And if you want to put something on, notwithstanding, that's certainly council's prerogative, council members' prerogative. I'm not going to try and take that away, but I think it would be nice to just very concisely and briefly address it. If we pull an item, when you go to address the item, say, I did or didn't talk to council to staff on this. I got busy. I didn't have a chance to talk to staff. Fine, move on. Or I talked to staff, but I think it needs to be addressed because I think most cases it's going to be tough to make that argument. If you've already talked to them and there's not a problem there, then you ought to be moving on. I just think as a policy, it would be a good way just to make the meetings efficient.
Yeah, I think that's well said. It's a good point. Any other council member comments on that?
No, I agree with that. I, as a matter of course, usually sit with Jared and go over all the items. I mean, unless there's something specifically that I need to bring up, but it does help quite a bit to go over it with them.
Maybe out of 3 items that you have questions on, maybe 2 of them will be eliminated.
And that's what happens.
And then the one you bring up in public, of course, to discuss, and that just saved us all time that evening.
Yes.
You know, of course.
And I do that as just as a matter of my own policy to do that.
And cost for staff, too.
Right. Any other comments? The public, would anyone like to come up and speak on that item?
I'll go ahead and throw my 2 cents worth
All
in.
right.
I kind of feel bad for Jared because it sounds like every single one of us goes through the entire agenda with you from front to back. I know we spend a couple of hours every single month.
The big bucks?
Yeah, he is getting paid
That's
the
his
big
job,
bucks.
man.
But I think each one of us has different. I mean, here we had a consent agenda. I only wanted to pull 2 things. You only wanted to pull 2. You only wanted to pull 2. And here you go. And that's how it goes. Different things are important to different ones of us for different reasons. And simply because we've had our questions answered doesn't mean that we shouldn't pull it, perhaps for the public's benefit.
Yeah,
I mean, there are
just
things.
depends.
There are things where we know what's going on, but it's so important to keep our community informed if we want to keep them engaged. You pulled the foundation item. Was it necessary? Well, yes, because you wanted to make a point. And so I think most of us, when we're pulling our consent agenda items, it's to make a point. There was no reason for me to have to pull the list of warrants. My question wasn't a question, but I wanted to commend Public Works for doing a good job on something that I brought up many, many months ago about keeping an eye on those kinds of expenditures. So I think there are a variety of reasons to pull a consent agenda item. And it may be for the sake of, I kind of feel bad that we didn't pull Michelle's after all the work that she did, to give us our, our budget, update and those changes. She did a lot of work, but I would agree. I think we should keep it to a minimum, but we should also not feel compelled to not pull something simply to rush through a meeting. We've got a job to do, and part of that job is informing our constituents.
Good. Jared, do we need a motion on that?
No, sir.
No? Okay. All right. Number 18 is more mayor and council member matters. This is an item regarding the Public Employees Pension Reform Act. Councilwoman Pauly.
Yeah, I requested this, and you know what? Since it is 10 o'clock, we've had a couple of pretty engaged in deep, issues that we discussed. I do think this is important, so I don't want us to rush through this. And I know we still have, council member reports and any staff reports that need to be made since it's 10 o'clock, and I don't want us to rush. If it's the pleasure of the council, I'd like to continue this item to next month, but have it moved a little bit further to the front so we can truly, kind of drill into what's going on there. Is that?
It would be my pleasure.
I kind of, as I saw this agenda after studying it, thought, oh man, I don't want us to rush through this one. I think it's important and complicated.
Yep. Thank you for that.
So let's continue this item to next month.
Nice.
We've already knocked off 19.
Item 19 is knocked off. That gets us down to mayor and council member matters. Time to hear individual council member information items. Starting with, how about council member Mills?
Nothing to report.
Good. Thank you. Nice and quick. Councilwoman Pauly.
Thank you. I have just a couple of things. On January 31st, I attended the Serrano Water District Town Hall meeting. I think all of you did. I think Serrano Water District, as always, did an outstanding job of laying everything out. It was a very well-attended meeting. There were well over 30 people in attendance, in addition, there were all the board members, their general manager, and a full contingent. The one thing that concerned me and was actually surprising to me was that we actually have within the voting districts members who vote on our representatives for Serrano Water District and yet are not ratepayers or members of that. That was news to me. I did not know that. We do have areas like the Indian Tract back there, Modoc and all that, where they vote Yes, they're members of Orange, but they also are, purchasers of Serrano Water District water. And I just really think that we need to look at that and figure out if there might be a way to change. I just wonder about the legality of that, quite frankly, that folks that aren't even ratepayers are allowed to vote just because they're within some sphere of influence. That is something I would like us to look into.
Well, I know something about that.
Please.
Is that those areas that are in the water district are from the Orchard Grove days.
Yes.
And a lot of those abodes and apartments, et cetera, like south of Collins, are also in that district as well. And they, at the time, Serrano did not elect to provide them with water directly, and so the city of Orange did it. And so, but for us to change it, I understand, would be very complicated, and it may draw the attention of LAFCO.
It probably would draw the attention of LAFCO.
Todd, you may have more on that than I.
Yeah. Water district law is the most arcane type of law in California. There's like 9 different types of water districts. I think Serrano, and just for we represent Serrano. Their general counsel, Joel Cooperberg, is 2 doors down from me. I think it's technically called an irrigation district, which kicks in property voting issues. So, yeah, you don't want to change it, but you could, but it's very complicated, and I think it does require.
But it does seem strange. Well, yeah. I think everyone agrees.
Right.
That.
It's once again, given the historical nature of why they were formed to get water to farmers, I think.
Yes.
Is why it was created that way.
And then some of the areas that were in Orange now, or other areas outside, is that because they were piping it over, and there was no Collins, there was no Prospect, there were dirt roads and for tractors, et cetera. So I don't know. I think it could be a rat's nest.
Well, I wouldn't want to attract the attention of LAFCO, but I do find it disturbing that people are allowed to vote on our directors, and they don't have to pay the rates, whatever we're paying. So that was the one thing that came out of that I thought was most interesting. On Thursday, February 7th, and Friday, February 8th, from 7:30 in the morning till 5 p.m., I attended the new elected officials orientation and public policy makers academy. Now, you would say, why would you do that? You've been on the council for 6 years. I attended the one that was put on by the Association of California Cities, Orange County, California Association. And I did it for a reason. It's a fairly new organization. We all remember when it came on board. It was the conservative Orange County answer to the more left-leaning and thinking League of Cities. And so I wanted to see how far they had come. That was an outstanding 2 days. An outstanding 2 days. Even though we are not a member, the city of Villa Park is not a member, it cost $40. $40. I drove down to Angels Stadium. They had it in the Angels press room, which was kind of cool. I've never been in there before. And we were very well cared for, very well taken care of, and we had briefing after briefing from Orange County Business Council, from the Orange County Council of Governments on their eHub and a variety of their different offerings now. Many of the research items that you struggle with, they've finally gotten up to speed on some of those things. Briefings from the County of Orange, from OCTA, from LAFCO, from SCAG, from TCA, from OCOG, from the Sheriff's Department, from the Orange County Fire Authority, from Urban Land Use, don't care about that, but they gave us a briefing, MoDOC, Orange County Water District, the Sanitation District, MET, OC Tax, MoDOC. And that was just part of day one. It was just really great information. Day 2 was more functional, more panel discussions, more about how to get things done, it was outstanding. As I'm looking at the report, and I did share some of you, I gave you all at least a packet, and then I gave a special packet to Greg that had just some of the slides that were made available. And the reason I did this was because I think it's really time for us to think about, and I've been trying to get us out of the League of Cities almost since I got on the council. I attended, as soon as I got on the council, the same as both of you did, You know, we were sent up to Sacramento for League of Cities orientation, and I kind of felt like it was much more than an orientation. It was like a brain meld. They were trying to suck my brain right out of my nostrils and teach me how to be more obedient to staff. Sorry, but I'm not interested in that. And it was extremely left-leaning in thinking. We're sending tax dollars to them, and quite often they're lobbying for things that none of us would ever want, ever. And so the Orange County Council of Governments, what they've developed here was really truly an answer to that on purpose. You guys spent over $1,500 to go up to Sacramento. You spent, near that as well. For $40, I was able to come home and have dinner with my family at night. And I got what's much more prescient and much more, it has a lot more to do with what we're actually doing here in Orange County. And they have lobbyists. They can get you legislative updates and briefings as well. They provide all the same kinds of briefings that you're required to have on Brown Act and those kinds of things. And I really think it's time for this city to start thinking about also leaving the League of Cities. There are many others that have left recently as the local organization has strengthened. When I look at what the League of Cities is there for, it is not there to serve elected officials. It is certainly not there to serve taxpayers, but it's actually there to service the professional bureaucrats. And nowhere is that more evident than in looking at the Western Cities magazine that they put out, when more than well over 50% of it is nothing but advertising about how to, get a job as an assistant general manager here and hire this executive search company here and be a city manager in Indian Wells. And this is what this organization is about. It services the professional bureaucrats. There are issues, of course, with this other organization too, but we don't even have to be a member of it to attend those meetings that they have, those monthly meetings that they have. They would not deny us that. And we can pay the non-member rate and go individually when we think this is interesting. This was a power-packed 2 days. It cost our taxpayers $40. And I would like us to really think long and hard about changing the organization that we associate ourselves with. Lastly, I wanted to commend Carol Stone with the Villa Park Community Services Foundation. I went to that volunteer appreciation evening, and she did an outstanding job. It was truly a class act, and I know that Carol Stone was responsible for that. I'm leaving this weekend. I'm a delegate to the California Republican Party's convention. We will be selecting a new state party chairman. God help us. That's it.
Thank you. Just a quick comment on the Orange County League of Cities.
Yes.
I definitely agree. I've been working with them for quite a while. The only reason we haven't left the one up in Sacramento is because we've already prepaid it, as you know. The gal who is the president of the Orange County League of Cities, Lacey Kelly, has offered us some real sweetheart deals to move over, and we've entertained those deals. I fully agree. We definitely should move over. They very much have matured. I like them a lot. I think they would serve us better, but we're kind of don't want to double pay. So we're getting closer to that happening, and I do agree with that as well.
Well, I think Deborah made a good point that it's local here, and we don't
Yeah.
even don't
Oh,
have
yeah.
to be a member. And I think that, speaking for myself and also I think Deanna, we saw, and a lot of the people that we sat with felt the same way that you just intimated, Deborah. No question. Especially a lot of the people we were talking to were from smaller cities in the Central Valley, and they are definitely on the same wavelength as
when in Rome, do as the Romans do. You were in Rome, right?
We were in Rome. There's no question about that. We were
Yeah.
we were right next to the emperor. For
Yeah,
about
you
5
were.
feet
That's right.
from Mr. Perez himself. So
Well, and, the nice thing is there are lobbying opportunities with this group.
Yeah,
if you
there
still
are.
want to get to go
There
to
are.
Sacramento, you can still go on those trips. If you feel the need to do that, there are a lot of great opportunities. They have matured.
They have matured a lot. Yeah.
And
definitely.
Lacey's she's the executive director. I don't think she's the president. The incoming president is...
She's the CEO, actually.
Well, Keith, oh gosh, I can't remember his last name. He's from Newport Beach, is the new...
Curry.
Curry, thank you.
Yeah.
He is the new incoming president. And he's a great guy.
Anyways, real quick, and just to do this fast, on 131, Mayor Pro Tem Barnett and myself went to the OCFA's Best and Bravest. That is an annual award dinner they have. On 2/14 is the day I was with OUSD. I discussed that earlier, so I won't rediscuss that. On 2/21, Mayor Pro Tem Barnett and myself were scheduled to go to the Orange County League of Cities event, which was local here at Care Ambulance in Orange, to hear Supervisor Nelson speak. Mayor Pro Tem Barnett obviously didn't come because he was a little under the weather. However, I went and learned quite a bit of what's going on with the county. I don't want to bore you guys all with a lot of things. You asked me to tell you, so I have that for you. And very interesting. I mean, there's just a lot of things, but I don't even think I'm going to go through them all because it's just late. But
Are there a couple that you would think are really key?
yeah, you know, one I really liked is he recommended when we look at compensation of our staff, always look at total comp. Done. Total comp. Agreed. Makes a lot of sense. So I think we all understand that. I mean, comp is comp, but you know, a lot of cities look at just the salary. They don't look at total comp. So I couldn't agree more with that. Another interesting one, of course, they're real big on pensions and reducing them and having 2 tiers. They're doing a great job on that. They're going to be they're working on building a new park in Tustin at the airplane hangars. They'll call it the Tustin Regional Park. It's 80 acres. Kind of interesting. There's a lot of information about that. And they're also working on a big bike loop that goes all around Orange County, and just kind of cool how it'll be a full loop. I mean, it will be a real exercise day. So anyways, I guess that's all I'm going to report on. I will let Councilwoman Fasanelli mention Serrano Water District. We had a meeting with them recently as well. I am done. Mayor Pro Tem Barnett.
Here we go again. I attended the OCFA meeting in January. We were there till, gosh, I think it was close to midnight. I'm not going to beat that other than to say that the focus of my attention was their financial position. They are massively underfunded because of their OSER pension plan, and I believe medical as well is tied in there. It's a phenomenal underfunding. They just don't seem to be recognizing the decline in earnings, investment earnings, and then I don't know what the real number is. It wouldn't shock me if it was $1 billion or more underfunded. They were talking numbers more in the $500 million range, but that was based on a 7.75% earnings rate. And I think their 2011 earnings were 0.74%. So, you know, they actually followed up and got me some numbers interpolated based at 5%, which was the Stanford University Business School and their bond rating agency's suggestions. And then it popped up, as I recall, more like $750 million. So it's a horrendous problem. Kind of ties to Brad's comments about the supervisors saying, look at the total cost, not just the salary. It just highlighted that again for me. Very nice group of people, nice active group of board members. You know, it's a great spot. Just out of control. They just got to get away from those defined benefit plans. And that made me think about something you said too. Oh, and I'm almost done, but I would like to see us take a look at some charter city outlines one of these days. It'd be nice to take a peek at it. Jared and I talked about that a little bit because of the cost of this union labor cost is just out of control. Interestingly, today I got the league update from, was it Tony Cardenas? Everybody probably got it. I took a very quick look at it. The first thing on there was SB 7, I think it was, with obviously the union proposing that all of these state improvement grants have a requirement that prevailing wage be required to be used on all jobs where they have grants, essentially taking away much of the charter city benefit. So, but it would be interesting to take a look at that one of these days. So that's really all I had. Thanks.
Brad and I met with the Serrano Water District. We met with a couple of the board members the other day. They had an update for us just to let everybody know where the water levels were, whether or not we were going to have a rate increase in the next few years. What they've told us is our water rates are not going to increase, at least for 3 years. They're being conservative. They'd like to tell us more, but at least for 3 years right now. We haven't had a lot of water. But there's enough in reserve, so we're good when it comes to that. We had a school committee meeting. It was a good show. We had all 4 PTA presidents come. We had Orange Unified School District come. We had a nice showing. Their concern certainly was traffic and enrollment within the city of Villa Park's elementary schools. Their question to Orange Unified School District is when are they going to close the enrollment for our elementary schools to the outside cities? The answer was, we're not closing it, but we'll try to limit it, which means it's going to continue as it is. The Serrano School is closed. They do not take any more open enrollments, but Villa Park Elementary is not closed. There is room for more children there. Whether or not we'll get them, we don't know, but there is room for more kids there. The other hot button certainly was the sheriffs having a key. And that's something that they're in discussion with. I talked to Kathy Moffett, and she's got several discussions going on right now. We'll see what happens there. They're going to try and do something. When it came to the trash, Jared and Ryan and I went over to Republic, and we took a nice hour-and-a-half tour of how our trash is collected, recycled, and put on containers and sent somewhere in the middle of the ocean to other countries. They can use everything we want. They treated us very well.
It's our biggest
They are preparing to do a compost giveaway in March, so you guys will be getting something in the mail for that. And I think that's about it.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, finally tonight, do we have a report from the Villa Park team on any other items of interest?
You know, I just want to bring one thing, and Brad, you know about this. The sanitation district, there's this big thing right now raising the rates over the next 5 years. I think over the past 5 years, they've raised them 10% a year.
That is correct, yep.
Because they were under a court order, well, a consent decree with EPA. To approve all their facilities, and they did that. We actually have great facilities now.
Right.
But in order to fund maintenance and other sort of completing the
infrastructure
loop
upgrades that they did.
Yeah, and there's going to be, they're going to increase from like 45 to 60% the amount of water they can go through second level filtration.
Secondary treatment, yeah.
Secondary treatment. So that election is at the end of the month. There's a public hearing. I forget exactly when it is, but
I have it.
everybody got the notice.
Yeah,
in the
oh yeah,
mail.
everyone got it in the mail.
Everybody had their 218
Businesses and
notice.
residents.
Right. You know, and I don't know. So John Anderson in
March
Yorba Linda,
27th.
Yeah.
who's the vice president, I think, of the board.
He's
or
the vice chair.
Vice chair.
Who
He
is?
actually had this,
John
John
Anderson.
Anderson.
Oh, yeah,
He actually had the sanitation district, not,
and Pawnee.
not Jim, Ruth, but the
Jim
second.
Herberg.
Yeah, Herbert.
Yeah, right.
And give a presentation
Yep.
just so people knew what was going on. I don't know. I
He's
mean,
a good dude.
he's smooth.
Very smart guy.
He's smooth.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that was something that you would think would be interested or to people here.
I think
in
it's very interesting.
But it may be overkill, or maybe just a presentation he could send us, and we could show his PowerPoint or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm certainly open to it. No, none of the board of directors want to see rates go up. What residents want to see rates go up? Orange County Sanitation is, if you look at like 15 different sanitation districts that are local to us, they're way down in their fees what we all pay as businesses and or residents. They do a wonderful job down there. That's one of the best ran organizations I've ever seen. They were spending $1 million a day on infrastructure for like years to make that place right. Bottom line is they got to go borrow the money or they raise the rates. They're asking for 4.5% rate increase on year 1 and 2.5% on year 2 through 5. It is so fair, it's unbelievable. So we've all scrubbed it very hard because we don't want to see a rate increase. This is not for raises for employees. This is literally they got to borrow the money, and this even includes burning down reserves to keep the rates low to the people.
Right.
But having him come here would be interesting, I suppose. You know, people would probably learn. I mean, you know, how long was the presentation over there?
About a half hour.
Yeah.
I mean, it was. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, it's
And I'm just throwing it.
Yeah, yeah.
I found
I mean-
it because I didn't really know. I mean, I'd gotten the notice in the mail, and I'm like, threw it away. But it was.
I mean,
That's what you
it
do.
really doesn't amount to that much to the residents. I mean,
It raises it from like $2.90 to
Ex-
$3.15 or something.
Exactly. You're talking a few bucks a month is what you're talking about. So is it worth half an hour to get the guy down and yap about it? I would leave it up to the council if they are interested in that. We certainly can do it. I don't care. I mean, it'd be minimum half an hour. I could see why it's a lot of information. You know, since you brought it up, I'd just ask, do you guys have an interest in that
Well,
presentation?
that would be before, or that would be the day before the public hearing, correct? I think it would be.
we can get him down here
Our
before
March
that.
council meeting. What would be the point of doing it if it?
Well, no, it'd have to. Well, what are you going to change it? What are you going to say to it? No, don't do it. You're not the whole Orange County. I mean,
Well, it's a public information.
it's
thing.
public information is what it is. They have a gal that does that as well. Herberg's the king. Their gal is really good. She's gone to many of them. We could get her down here, maybe for a shortened version. So, you guys have an interest in that?
Just don't get much turnout for it. I just don't think you
Yeah. So Rick is saying probably not. Deanna.
The thing is
Yeah,
if it were this month, it would make more sense because next month are when the public hearings are. So if
Yeah,
you did it, it would be the day before the public hearings. And really, you would make a request like that the night before they're having these big public hearings. I'll bet they're going to be busy.
Well, maybe we
Oh
could,
yeah,
we
I
could
mean,
have another.
honestly, I did think about it. I really did, and I thought it just isn't worth it. I don't.
It is
That's
worth
just
it.
my own opinion. I mean, you would like to see it, Deborah? Greg, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'd like to see him come here and address the city. We can
Yeah.
open up the chambers here for them at another date. I mean,
Well, it's kind of like what Rick said. Are we going to get people to really come? Hi, Orange County said. I mean, you wouldn't want to do it at a council meeting because it's going to be half an hour, right? So that's too long. So you'd have to make a special meeting. You're going to invite all of our public to come. You're probably going to get 5 people, 10 people that come to listen to their, sewage rates go up $2 a month.
Well, you
Is
know
it
what?
really worth it? I mean, if it is, I'm good. Fine. I mean, I'm just saying,
Here's what happened with Serrano. When Serrano Water District was preparing to raise their rates, they held a town hall meeting and not a soul showed up. You were at that meeting.
Yeah,
There were
I
5
remember
people.
it. And
But after the rates had been up for a couple years, then suddenly they all want to talk
But
about
that's
it.
a different ballgame. That's a lot more money, Deborah. This is peanuts. I mean, that
Everybody
was bigger.
says it's peanuts here, it's peanuts there, and eventually you've paid for it's a lot of money that we're being asked to pay more everywhere we turn.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
I'll think about it. I don't know. It would have to be a special meeting.
Yeah, I wouldn't think a special meeting, but I just wanted to bring it up so people.
No, it's good. Everyone got the notice. People are curious. It's good we discussed it. I'm glad you did bring it up actually, and
Because I do this for a living, and I was like, I was fascinated by it. Fascinated by sewage.
yeah,
Sort of revolting.
it is.
But it was so
actually is
interesting.
amazing.
Oh.
There's a lot of technology there. It is amazing. Let's think about that, Jared. I mean, maybe maybe you could put it in the ENet. Would anyone be interested? I don't know how we could pulse the public if they would be interested, but anyways,
I did this twice for the water district.
yeah, it fizzled on the water district with your thing. Yeah, I don't know. All right, so back to the Villa Park team. Is there any reports, Jared?
Yeah, I'd just like to mention, in keeping with our school traffic site improvements, we recently striped clear in the asphalt over down by Villa Park Elementary in their southern exit. This will allow cars to leave the parking lot. Before, they were just backing up and nobody could exit, just creating gridlock. So per the city schools committee meeting and some public comment that received at a past council meeting, finally got that painted in the street. We're also looking at creating buses only zones down there and some additional red curb that might help. And then the last time I'd like to report would be the Sheriff's Medal of Valor. I believe you got a notice in your box that that luncheon is coming up again. I believe it's the day of our council meeting next month. 26th.
It's on my calendar.
Let us know. We'll obviously get a table again for
Yeah.
the city, and it's a very moving event. If you've never been.
Good event. Yep. We appreciate what they do for us. You better believe it. So that's it?
That's all I have.
Excellent. Okay, with that, we will adjourn our meeting. Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, March 26th. and it will be at 7 p.m. here in the council chambers. Good night.